Chapter 21:16. The nine-winged skydragon's temper became more and more irritable. Its red eyes carried a cruel glint as it stared at Yun Luofeng, wanting to tear this woman into pieces. Yun Xiao, take out the nine-winged skydragon's egg. With this egg, it won't act rashly, Yun Luofeng said with a deep frown. There seems to be some kind of power in the nine-winged skydragon's egg that will prevent me from entering the secret door. So I temporarily left it by the altar. However, when the two of them wanted to take the nine-winged skydragon's egg, Yun Luofeng was shocked by the next scene. Yun Chutian, who was just beside him, had walked to the altar. Even the nine-winged skydragon's egg had been broken by her, and the corner of her mouth was full of egg yolk. Seeing Yun Luofeng walking toward her, she immediately looked at her with a pair of innocent eyes. The creature inside the nine-winged skydragon's egg had died before this. This egg was just a dead egg, and it could not hatch into a nine-winged skydragon. However, even so, this was the nine-winged skydragon's wish. Otherwise, it would not have guarded here for so many years. Burp. Yin Chutian burped. She still did not know what she had done wrong, and her clean and clear eyes were filled with a pitiful look. Roar! The nine-winged skydragon finally realized that the egg had been eaten. It hit the barrier outside the door even harder, its eyes bloodthirsty and its roar filled with anger. Yun Luofeng shrugged helplessly. Yun Xiao, it seems that we can't get out this time. I can fight him, Yun Xiao said after a moment of silence. No, it's too dangerous. The nine-winged skydragon is not like when it just woke up. I don't want you to make any risky preparations. We must have other ways to stop him. Yun Luofeng stroked her chin and fell into deep thought. However, the nine-winged skydragon was clearly angered by them. In other words, the mainland was at least safe. As long as she was sure that her family was safe, she would have time to think about how to deal with the nine-winged skydragon. I got it. Yun Luofeng's eyes flashed. Among Juechin's formations, there is a formation that might be able to deal with the nine-winged skydragon. Yun Xiao turned to look at Yun Luofeng, silently waiting for her to speak. That formation is called the Heaven and Earth Entrapment Formation. This formation is very difficult to set up in a short period of time. Furthermore, I have never tried it before, so I might fail. I believe you. Yun Zhao's expression was very serious. He trusted her. As long as it was something she wanted to do, it was impossible for her to fail. All right, Yun Xiao, I'm not strong enough to set up this spell formation. I need your help. Yun Luofeng pondered for a moment, then continued. Yun Yi, come out and help me. In an instant, the spirit beasts all ran out of Yun Luofeng's divine grimoire space, and Yun Yi also appeared in front of her. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Yun Luofeng took a deep breath and began to set up the formation. The 7 continents. The sky was dyed red by the color of blood, and under this blood-colored sky, an austere killing was happening. If we kill this group of people, we can gain the favor of Lord Yutian. Lord Yutian is the ruler of our spirit god continent. With his favor, we can use the resources of the spirit god continent at will. Someone in the crowd said something that made the murderous intent of those people even stronger. Under their killing intent, the group of people had no room to resist at all. Chapter 21:17. At the same time, the Jun family in Ling continent was overcrowded. Jun Lingtian looked at Hong Ling, who had been picked up by the Jun family, and laughed. Lord Hong Ling, you can treat the Jun family as your home from now on. You don't have to be polite to us. With the Jun family's protection, you will definitely be safe and sound. Hong Ling sighed inwardly. He had never thought that his daughter's actions would protect the East Continent Prefecture from this calamity. That's right, a calamity. Not long ago, a group of people had come to kill them. Those people were very aggressive. They claimed that the 7 continents were abandoned lands and that they were wasting the resources of the spirit god continent. That was why they wanted to exterminate all humans in the 7 continents. Ling go and see if the people from West Spirit Academy are here. The elders of West Spirit Academy are Feng Er's masters, so you must make arrangements for them. As for the students, let them squeeze with the servants of the East Continent for a while. Oh, that's right. The people who went to the Yi residence in the Wuhui continent should be back by now. Also, bring Feng or subordinates from the medicine tower here. Who knows if this group of crazy people will also destroy the Wuhui continent. Jun Lingtian's expression became more and more serious. Although Yun Qingya had reached the Divine Lord level, he didn't know how many Divine Lords they were facing, so he had to be careful. Master. Suddenly, a servant hurried in. The master of the South Continent has sent someone to ask for an audience. The South Continent? Jun Lingtian sneered. Someone actually dares to come to the South Continent. Could it be that they had forgotten how they had treated the Yun family back then? Now they come to us for help? It's too late. Drive them out. Yes, master. Everyone in the 7 continents knew what the South Continent had done. Therefore, the servant of the Jun family had long been unhappy with the South Continent, but he still needed to report such an important matter to the master. However, it was impossible for the Jun family to not know what decision the master would make. Therefore, after receiving the order, the servant quickly walked out. Not long after, he saw the master of the South Continent waiting at the door. That's right. The master of the South Continent had come to the Jun family this time. He had no intention of leaving since he had come. Moreover, the Jun family couldn't just sit back and watch as the 7 continents faced such a crisis. At this moment, the South Continent's continent lord seemed to have forgotten how they had treated him when the Yun family was in danger. Our master has said that we won't take in people from the South Continent. The manservant held his head high and said disdainfully. The lord of the South Continent's expression changed, but he still needed the Jun family's protection, so his tone softened. Let me see, Grandpa Jun. I'll have a way to make him keep me. A trace of anger flashed in the servant's eyes as he snorted. You didn't save me in the past. Why should my old master take you in? Hurry up and leave, or I'll get someone to chase you away. You. The South Continent's continent lord was so angry that his face turned red. A mere servant dared to speak to him like this. After all, he was the continent master of South Continent. The South Continent's continent lord took a deep breath and clenched his fists, suppressing the anger in his heart. I don't want you to talk. I just want to see Grandpa Jun. Let me see him. I won't leave until I see him. Unexpectedly, just as the South Continent's continent lord finished speaking, a mocking voice came from behind. Chapter 21:18. You want the Jun family to take you in? The reason? Just because you left the Yun family in the lurch? A person in a gray robe followed by a group of people came forward. The woman did not even look at the lord of the South Continent. She cupped her fists towards the servant. Please go and report to the lord of the Jun family that the elder in gray of the Sacred Maiden tribe has come to visit. Elder Gray Robe is here? My grandfather has been waiting for you for a long time. The Holy Maiden tribe had helped the Yun family when they were in danger and took in the seriously injured Grandpa Jun would remember this kindness in his heart. So when the continent was in danger, he did not forget about the Holy Maiden tribe. It was an unintentional mistake. The South Continent's lord knew the identity of the person in front of him. He did not dare to vent his anger. Besides, your Holy Maiden tribe had offended Yun Luophone before. Why are you here? Why can't I? Elder Gray Robe glanced at the South Continent's lord and sneered. I did make a mistake, but I also helped in times of need. Grandpa Jun was grateful to the Holy Maiden tribe, so he invited us. I'm not like you who came uninvited and refused to leave. I have never seen someone as shameless as you in my life. You really want to leave us in the lurch? The South Continent's lord's face turned ugly. We are all from the 7 continents. The spirit god continent has gone too far, and you want me to die? Elder Gray Robe was stunned by the South Continent's lord's shamelessness. It took him a while to recover. The one who wanted to attack the Yun family was also from the spirit god continent. So why are you leaving them in the lurch? This is not the same. The Yun family is not from the 7 continents. Why should I save them? Besides, the Qin family from the spirit god continent only wanted to attack the Yun family. This is their personal grudge. Why should we save them? The South Continent's lord's eyes darkened. Now the spirit god continent wants to destroy our entire wind cloud continent. How can this be compared to what happened before? What else can I say if you think so? Elder Gray Robe thought that he could not argue with the South Continent's lord. He was too lazy to argue with him. However, the Jun family is the Yun family's relative. Why should they protect you? Besides, the gray-clothed elder looked down and sneered. Let me tell you something. Why did the spirit god continent fail to kill the Jun family's people? That's because the second young master of the Yun family, Yun Qingya, came out to fight the enemy. That's why the enemy was driven away. Now that the spirit god continent had come to the 7 continents, they would definitely not let Yun Luofeng's family off. At that time, the spirit god continent had sent a divine lord over, but he had been beaten away by Yun Qingya. The continent lord in the southern continent definitely did not know about this matter. All he knew was that the Jun family was the only family that could remain unscathed under the siege of the spirit god continent. The lord of the south continent was dumbfounded for a long time before he regained his composure. He continued to quibble. If the Jun family doesn't take me in, then they will be the sinners of the continent. They will watch their compatriots die without doing anything. And since Yun Qingya and the Jun family are relatives, it's only right for her to protect me. It was only right for others to save him. If they didn't, they would be scolded by the world and go down in infamy. Even if the other party had asked for help from the South Continent, not only did he ignore them, he even chased them out of the door. The gray-clothed elder shook her head. She really did not know where this idiot got such strong confidence from. Did he think that others must protect him? Chapter 21:19. Lord of the South Continent. No matter what you think, the Jun family will never help you. With that, Elder Hui couldn't be bothered to say anything more to this idiot. He flung his sleeves and walked into the Jun family. The Lord of the South Continent's expression changed. Just as he was about to follow Elder Hui in, Elder Hui waved his hand as if he had eyes. A powerful force surged towards them. With a boom, the Lord of the South Continent took a few steps back, his expression a little awkward. Jun Lintian, come out. You can't just leave me in the lurch. Seeing that these people wouldn't let him enter the Jun family's residence, the Lord of the South Continent yelled at the top of his lungs. We're from the same continent. Can you really not save me? Lord, please save me. I really don't want to die. Towards the end, his voice softened, filled with pleading and even trembling. The Jun family was the only life-saving straw on the continent. He wanted to hold on to it, but no one would give him the chance. At that moment, Grandpa Jun's cold voice came from above the Jun family's residence. You didn't help me back then, and now you have the face to beg me? I'll give you one chance. Leave immediately. Otherwise, I'll kill you before the people from Spirit God Continent arrive. The old man's voice was majestic and domineering. Even though he hadn't seen the person, the voice alone was enough to make his heart tremble. It was as if a huge mountain was pressing down on him, making it hard for him to breathe. This time, the Lord of the South Continent didn't dare to stay any longer. He left in the direction he came from. He understood that what happened that day was a mistake he would never be able to make up for in his life. Grandpa, he's gone. Jun Linger walked up to Jun Lintian and pursed her thin lips. Do you think we can really fight against those powerhouses from Spirit God Continent? We have to believe in your second uncle's strength. He's the only divine lord here, so he'll definitely protect us. However, we need to be prepared. This battle might be a long one. Jun Lintian sighed softly. No matter how strong Yun Qingya was, she was alone. There were many powerhouses on Spirit God Continent. To be honest, he didn't have much of a chance of winning. If only Sister Yun was here. Sister Yun is so powerful. She can definitely deal with those enemies. Old man, it's bad, it's bad. Suddenly, a panicked voice came from outside. The people from the Spirit God Continent are here again. They're clearly stronger than the ones from last time. What? Jun Lintian's heart almost stopped beating. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but found that he couldn't find the words. At this moment, Yun Qingya slowly walked in from outside the door. He stood with his hands behind his back, his face elegant. Old Master Jun, in this Jun city, other than the Jun family, there are still many commoners. I don't want to have so many casualties, so I plan to go outside the city gates to meet the enemy. As for the mission of protecting the safety of these commoners, I'll leave it to you. Yun Qingya was born in a family of generals. Unlike Yun Luofeng, He would place the lives of the people in his heart. Of course, he was not a saint. He would never protect someone like the continent lord of the South Continent. Are you going to face the enemy alone? Jun Lintian looked at Yun Qingya in surprise, his heart filled with worry. Chapter 21:20. I checked the situation just now. Those people have split into several groups. From the looks of it, there will be a few divine lords mixed in with them. Other than these people, there will be experts attacking from the west, south, and north of the city. You have to send people to defend them. Leave some people in the city to protect the residents. Yun Qingya's voice was very cold as she said slowly. Old Master Jun gritted his teeth. All right, then we'll do as you say. I'll take care of the other 3 cities. You must stop those divine lords. Otherwise, our spirit continent will also face a calamity. Yun Qingya looked at the people behind her, turned around, and walked towards the door. Big Brother Yun, Ning Xian quickly took 2 steps forward with a determined expression. I'll go with you. Yun Qingya pondered for a moment. Ever since he had consumed the dragon saliva fruit, Ning Xian's strength had increased by quite a bit. Therefore, he nodded slightly in agreement. All right, let's go together. Ning Xian smiled. This smile was very beautiful, so beautiful that it was like a lotus blooming in this place. As long as she could be with the man she loved. So what if she died? She would never be afraid. Father, mother. Yun Ruoshui's eyes reddened. She wanted to hold Ning Xian's hand and looked at her with grievance. Shui'er also wants to be with you. Ning Xian's expression softened. She caressed Yun Ruoshui's head and said warmly, Shui'er, stay in the city obediently. Father and mother will be back soon. Yun Ruoshui's heart tightened. How could she not know the danger they were facing this time? Thus, her large eyes were filled with worry. Will you really come back? Definitely. Ning Xian raised her hand and rubbed Yun Ruoshui's head. She slowly stood up and looked at Yun Qingya, who was standing in front of her. Let's go. All right. Yun Qingya smiled. Before he left, his loving gaze fell on little Ruoshui's young and tender face. Shui'er, Father promises you that we will definitely return safely. The premise is that you have to listen to your grandfather obediently. Understand? Yun Ruoshui nodded firmly. Shui'er will be very obedient. You are not allowed to lie to Shui'er. Otherwise, Shui'er will never forgive you. It was as if the determination on Yun Ruoshui's face had caused Ning Xian's heart to ache. In the end, she had forced herself to harden her heart and walk out. After the 2 of them left, Yun Ruoshui's tears finally flowed uncontrollably, and her face was full of tear stains. Father, mother, Shui'er will wait for your return. Outside the city gate, there was an austere atmosphere. Yun Qingya looked at the experts descending from the sky. Then her gaze fell on the man she had fought with before. He's just a defeated opponent, yet he dares to start over? Last time, I underestimated you. This time, you will die. The long-robed man's face was cold, and his voice carried a strong killing intent. So what if you found some helpers? Yun Qingya took 2 steps forward and separated her feet. Like a huge mountain, she blocked the city gate. I, Yun Qingya, have the bloodline of the Yun family, a family of generals. Today, as long as I still have my lofty and unyielding character, I won't allow you to harm other innocent people. He was born in a general's family, so he naturally had a proud and unyielding character. He would rather die than retreat. It was fine even if he had to give up his life to protect the city gate behind him. Ha! The long-robed man laughed mockingly. Then I want to see what kind of ability you will use to stop me, and what will you use to defend the people behind you. Chapter 21:21. Boom! At that moment, the few divine monarchs in the sect also stood up. A powerful aura spread out and swept towards Yun Qingya like an earth-shattering wave. Yun Qingya remained as motionless as a mountain. His expression did not change. His expression was very cold, and his face seemed to be shrouded in a layer of cold light. Second brother, at this moment, a voice suddenly rang out from the sky. When Yun Qingya turned her head, she saw Bai Ling's figure appear in front of him. Sister-in-law, you're back? Yun Qingya was overjoyed as she said. Bai Ling's figure descended from the sky and stood beside Yun Qingya. She turned her head to look at the group of people behind her, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. I heard about the difficulties of the 7 continents, so I brought the people of the Wind and Cloud continent to help. These people should be from the Spirit God continent? When did the Spirit God continent have so many divine monarchs? In reality, the divine monarchs of the Spirit God continent were not as many as they knew. Even Qin Yuan, the son of the Qin family of the Spirit God continent, only knew of the existence of a few divine monarchs. On the contrary, there were many divine monarchs who hid in the world and did not appear in front of others. As time passed, those people would not know of their existence. Sister-in-law, let's not worry about that for now. Let's stop these people first and not let them enter the city gate. Inside the city gate, there were not only innocent residents, but also the people they wanted to protect. All right, second brother, sister-in-law. Then let's work together to repel the enemy. Bai Ling smiled slightly, looking at the group of people with eyes filled with killing intent. At the same time, the enemies at the other 3 city gates also attacked. With Old Man Jun leading the way, it was relatively easy to defend the west gate. Even if it was not easy to defend the other 2 city gates, they still used their iron-blooded bodies to block the attacking crowd. Right now, no one in the Spirit Continent knew that this defensive battle had lasted for a few months. Within a few months, both sides had suffered heavy losses, and they were unable to determine the victor. Even so, everyone was still persevering, causing the entire Spirit Continent to be shrouded in a bloody mist. No Return Continent. Endless City. Within the spacious room, Yun Luofeng placed down the last stone. At that moment, a powerful spiritual energy flowed within the stone. The spiritual energy connected and formed a prison cell. Yun Xiao, my formation is complete. Now let's think of a way to let the 9-winged sky dragon in. Yun Luofeng wiped away the cold sweat on her forehead. After so many months, her array formation was finally completed. Get out of my way first. After saying that, Yun Luofeng added another sentence. Yun Xiao obediently took a few steps back. His eyes had never left Yun Luofeng since the beginning. His gaze had always been on her, and he had always been vigilant towards the movements in his surroundings. In these few months, Yun Luofeng had not only set up the array, but also figured out why the 9-winged sky dragon could not enter the room. Therefore, under Yun Zhao's gaze, Yun Luofeng slowly walked towards a rock on the altar. This stone was very big, and it was navy blue in color. It looked eerie and terrifying. Yun Xiao smashed this stone. After smashing it, immediately hide behind the array. After Yun Luofeng scanned the stone, he had already taken the lead and walked behind the array. I'm still writing. Chapter 21-22. At the same time, Yun Zhao's body leaped forward, and his hard fist smashed into the stone with a loud bang. In an instant, the stone shattered under his power and drifted into the air. The moment the stone was destroyed, a powerful force was sent out. The force was very strong, and it quickly swept across the room. Seeing that Yun Luofeng was also within the range of the impact, Yun Zhao's heart was in her throat. She used her fastest speed to rush toward her, but before Yun Xiao could reach Yun Luofeng, the little lowly Yun Chutian quickly blocked Yun Luofeng's way. Her big eyes were red with anger. Don't bully mother and little brother. Her words were a little unclear. Like a child who had just started learning to speak, her voice was a little stuttering. However, she still revealed her thoughts. She wanted to protect Yun Luofeng and the little brother in her stomach. Boom! When the impact reached Yun Chutian's face, it suddenly dissipated, yes. It dissipated. That force only lifted Yun Luofeng's sleeves. It didn't even injure him in the slightest. Yun Xiao was so frightened that she pulled Yun Luofeng into her arms and hugged her tightly. Sorry, I shouldn't have been so far away from you just now. Yun Xiao, it's not your fault. I was the one who asked you to destroy the stone. Moreover, in this place, only you can destroy it. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile like a flower. Boom! The 9-winged sky dragon fiercely slammed into the barrier that was blocking him. This time, The barrier didn't bounce him back. Instead, it instantly shattered and immediately rushed into the room. Roar! It roared angrily and rushed toward Yun Shutian, who was beside Yun Luofeng. Yun Shutian buried her body in Yun Luofeng's arms and pulled her sleeve tightly. Her big eyes were very innocent and spirited. It was as if she wasn't afraid of anything as long as she was beside Yun Luofeng. When the nine-winged sky dragon rushed over, the array was also activated. A giant cage rose from the ground and trapped him inside. Roar! The nine-winged sky dragon became even more irritable as it slammed into the giant cage with all its might. However, its strength had dissipated by the time it reached the giant cage, and it could not exert any strength at all. Yun Luofeng no longer looked at the nine-winged sky dragon. She lowered her head and looked at Yun Shutian. Tianer, tell me, who taught you to speak? In the past few months, she and Yun Xiao had been busy setting up the array formation, so no one had communicated with Yun Shutian. How could she suddenly speak? Yun Shutian blinked his big, ignorant eyes and pointed at Yun Luofeng's stomach. Little brother gave it to me. Yun Luofeng was stunned for a moment. He lowered his head to look at his stomach, then turned his gaze to Yun Shutian. Tian, tell me honestly, who taught you? Seeing that Yun Luofeng didn't believe him, Yun Shutian felt wronged. It was really little brother who taught me. He also told me that you're my mother. He also said that after he comes out, he'll forget the memories of his previous life and asked me to protect him. Memories from his past life? Yun Luofeng felt that something was wrong, and doubt flashed in his eyes. Then can you tell me how you communicate? Little brother and I can communicate telepathically. I can hear what he says. At first, Yun Shutian's speech was not fluent, but it became more fluent as time went on. His big eyes were filled with an innocent light as he looked at Yun Luofeng without blinking. Chapter 21-23. Yun Luofeng muttered to himself. It seemed that this little girl was not simple. Furthermore, she was inextricably linked to her child. However, what made Yun Luofeng even more confused was what Yun Shutian's previous life memory was all about. Suddenly, a name flashed through Yun Luofeng's mind. When she thought of that name, she immediately gritted her teeth in hatred. We've been tricked by Songji. Back then, she got pregnant in Songji's wooden hut using the method that Songji gave her. She did not think too much about it back then. Now that she thought about it, perhaps it was all part of that bastard's plan. Good. Very good. Since Songji dared to scheme against her, then he could not blame her for being ruthless. Tian, do you like little brother? Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Shutian with a smile and asked. Yun Shutian blinked. Tian likes little brother. Okay. Then when the time comes, mother will ask you to do one thing. Yun Luofeng's eyes flashed. In our Yun family, we only ask for one person for a lifetime. When little brother is born, help mother look after him. Don't let him harm innocent girls. Songji was such a womanizer. To put an end to his womanizing would be even harder than taking his life. More importantly, as her and Yun Zhao's son, he could not be so womanizing. Yun Shutian nodded, not fully understanding. Tian, listen to mother. Look after little brother, and don't let him harm anyone. Okay. Yun Luofeng curled the corners of her lips. However, at this moment, her stomach ached, and she could not help but cover it tightly. Feng, what's wrong? Seeing the cold sweat on Yun Luofeng's forehead, Yun Zhao's expression suddenly became nervous. His eyes were filled with worry. He was afraid that Yun Luofeng was accidentally hurt by the shockwave just now. It's nothing. I think I'm going to give birth, Yun Luofeng said through gritted teeth. Yun Xiao was stunned. Giving birth? Feng, what should I do? All these years, no matter what Yun Xiao did, he had always maintained a calm and composed appearance. That grim expression of his had never once changed. But at this moment, this powerful man, who held the entire world in his hands, felt a sense of helplessness. Go prepare some hot water. I need to wash up later. Yun Luofeng felt her stomach twitch. Her face was pale from the pain. Seeing Yun Luofeng in this state, how could Yun Xiao leave? He held Yun Luofeng's hand, his gaze sweeping over to Yun Yi. who was standing to the side. Go prepare some hot water. Yun left after receiving the order. Yun Xiao tightly held onto Yun Luofeng's hand. Feng, I will be by your side forever. It seemed that Yun Zhao's words had comforted Yun Luofeng, causing her expression to gradually calm down. Her lips curled into a smile as she said, Sure, I'm fine. Give her son a name first. Name? I've already thought of it. He'll be called Yun Yinfeng. Yun Yinfeng. These 3 words filled Yun Luofeng's face with warmth. She felt the pain in her lower body, as if all the strength had been sucked out. Hence, at this moment, she could not answer Yun Zhao's question. Instead, she took out a piece of blood ginseng from her space and bit it. Only then did she feel her strength gradually recovering. This time, she gave birth for 3 days and 3 nights. She didn't know if it was because the child was special or if there were other reasons. But Yun Luofeng used many methods during the process, but she still couldn't give birth to the child. Because of this, Yun Zhao's eyes turned red with anxiety. His heart had long been dissatisfied with his unborn son. And after 3 days, the sound of crying resounded in this empty room. Chapter 21-24. Little brother. Yun Shutian ran to Yun Luofeng with her short legs. She blinked her big eyes and looked at the baby in Yun Luofeng's arms. Her smile was as bright as a beautiful flower. Mother, Tian likes little brother. Yes. Yun Luofeng's eyes flickered. She noticed Yun Shutian's gaze and said, Then I'll betroth little brother to you and let him be your child bride. What do you think? What's a child bride? Yun Shutian looked at Yun Luofeng curiously and asked in confusion. A child bride is just like your father and I. We'll never be separated in this lifetime and are the most important person in each other's lives. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a sinister smile. Song Ji schemed against her, so she also schemed against Song Ji's entire life. Okay. Yun Shutian clapped and smiled. Tian wants to be little brother's child bride and become the second most important person in little brother's life. The second? What about the first one? The first one is mother. Yun Shutian nestled in Yun Luofeng's arms and smiled innocently. When little brother was in mother's stomach, he told Tian that mother was the most important person to him and asked Tian to protect mother. He also said that if Tian did it, then he would make Tian one of his women. Mother, what does little brother mean by that? Yun Luofeng was touched when she heard the first part of the sentence. She was even more hesitant about whether she had gone too far. But Yun Shutian's next words, however, made her face darken. You must remember, in the future, you will not allow little brother to flirt with innocent girls. If he dares to harm those innocent girls, beat him up for me. Yun Shutian blinked her eyes as if she understood. She did not know what mother meant by that. However, she understood that what her mother said was correct. Yun Xiao, the 9-winged sky dragon, has been locked up. Let's leave now. Yun Luofeng persevered and stood up. In his arms was a tender baby, and his hand was holding Yun Shutian's. Originally, the newborn child was wrinkled, but the little guy in her arms was very pink and cute. Yun Luofeng couldn't help but stretch out her finger to touch his face, making her fingertips feel very elastic. The little fellow had not opened his eyes, but he could feel Yun Luofeng's fingers. A pair of short arms flailed wildly in the air, trying to grab onto those fingers that were touching him. You just gave birth. You need to rest. Yun Xiao frowned, her eyes filled with worry. I'm fine. Yun Luofeng shook his head, his voice calm. No. Yun Xiao raised her hand and took the little fellow from Yun Luofeng's arms and said very firmly, I heard that after a woman gives birth, she can't get out of bed for a month. So, let's return to the Divine Grimoire space first and wait for a month before we leave. As for other matters, Yun Xiao could rely on Yun Luofeng for everything. But he also had moments of decisiveness. For the sake of Yun Luofeng's health, he would not allow her to run around in exhaustion at this time. Feng, if you suffer even the slightest injury, I will never be able to forgive myself. Yun Luofeng glanced at Yun Xiao. I'm a doctor. That won't do. Yun Xiao was very determined. It was rare for Yun Luofeng to see such a determined Yun Xiao. She shrugged her shoulders rather helplessly. Okay, then I'll wait for a month before leaving. Is that okay? Chapter 21-25. 7 Continents. Outside the gates of June City, in the sky, Yun Qingya stood in front of the group of experts. A cold and austere aura made the man's face look a little more grim and less indifferent. Second brother, Bai Ling stood in front of Yun Qingya. This battle has already lasted for a few months. If this goes on, it won't be a solution. We must finish off the enemy as soon as possible. This battle had already lasted for several months. More and more experts from the Spirit God continent had come to the 7 continents. Even she was starting to feel a little powerless. However, on the other side of the Spirit God continent, not far away, many people had joined the battle. Yun Qingyao looked at the city gate that he was protecting behind him, and her eyes turned slightly cold. No matter what, we must persevere. Yun Qingyao's voice was very cold. When he looked at Ning Xian, his eyes softened. Xian, are you afraid? Ning Xian firmly shook her head. From the moment I followed you, I have already disregarded life and death. With you accompanying me in this life, it is enough. As long as she could be with him, she would have no regrets, even if she died. All right. Yun Qingyao retracted her gaze and once again faced the group of enemies in front of her. As she took a step forward, a cold and awe-inspiring aura spread out. The man stood in the air, flying in the air. His handsome face was expressionless as he coldly looked at the enemies in front of him. I still have the same words. If you want to enter June City, you must step over my Yun Qingya's corpse. When the experts on the other side heard Yun Qingya's voice, they all laughed out loud and quickly rushed towards Yun Qingya. Just him alone wanted to stop them? This was truly an idiot's dream. Bai Ling and Ning Xian stood beside Yun Qingya, one on the left and one on the right. At this moment, everyone was determined to die. At this moment, a familiar voice suddenly came from the air. This voice was filled with surprise as it slowly sounded in Yun Qingya's ears. Fenger's second uncle. What happened here? Where are my father and the others? Within the void, 2 figures gradually appeared. The woman was dressed in a red robe that could topple a city. She looked valiant and formidable, while the man standing next to her had a gentle face, like a spring breeze. You're back? When Yun Qingya saw the 2 people in the sky, a ray of light shot out from her cold eyes. Ever since Yun Luofeng had left, he had gone to look for Jun Fengling and Yi Jingxian. However, he had not been able to find their whereabouts. He had not expected that they would actually appear now. Second brother, these 2 are, Bai Ling asked curiously as she looked at the man and woman descending from the sky. Sister-in-law, they are Shower's parents. Yun Qingya's heart slowly relaxed. You guys came at the right time. Fengling left me 2 dragon saliva fruits. These dragon saliva fruits are also prepared for you guys. After you eat them, you can help me fight. Sister-in-law? Jun Fengling noticed the way Yun Qingya addressed Bai Ling. She raised her eyebrows and swept her gaze across Bai Ling's face. When she saw the face that was similar to Yun Luofeng's, a hint of surprise appeared in her eyes. Didn't Feng or his mother pass away? Why would she still appear here? Of course, Jun Fengling also understood that this was not the time to ask about these things. She turned her gaze to Yun Qingya and asked, What is the dragon saliva fruit you're talking about? There's not much time left. I don't have time to explain it to you. Yun Qingya handed the dragon saliva fruit to the 2 of them. This is the dragon saliva fruit that Fengling left behind. If there's anything else, I'll tell you after the battle is over. Chapter 21-26. All right. Jun Fengling trusted the Yun family and did not ask too many questions. She took the ambergris fruit and took a bite. Her mouth was filled with sweetness. At the same time, with a loud boom, a storm spiraled above her head. Not long after, heavenly lightning was born and struck down like a bolt of lightning. When Yun Qingya and the others broke through, they had the help of azure wings, which allowed them to easily pass the lightning tribulation. However, at this moment, Azure Wings was not in June City. Jun Fengling and Yi Jingchen could only rely on their own bodies to resist the lightning tribulation in the void. The lightning tribulation lasted for a long time in the sky above Jun City, causing the residents of the city to be extremely shocked. However, they still hid in their houses and did not dare to come out, afraid that they would be affected by the battle. Outside West City, Grandpa Jun and Hong Ling were also struggling to hold on. The few months of battle had almost exhausted them. If they did not deal with these people soon, they might not be able to defend West City. Grandpa, do you still have the spiritual medicine that Miss Yun left behind? Hong Ling asked with a pale face as he wiped the sweat off his forehead. I used it all yesterday. Jun Lintian laughed bitterly. East Continent's Lord, I asked you to come to Jun City to protect you. I didn't expect that I would need you to help me fend off these foreign enemies. Hong Ling smiled disapprovingly. I also obtained the ambergris fruit from Miss Yun. I can't just sit back and do nothing. Furthermore, his daughter was already dead, and this world didn't hold much attraction for him. If he could die on the battlefield, wouldn't it be a relief to him? Facing the menacing cultivators, Hong Ling gently closed his eyes. After a long time, he opened his eyes again. In the azure sky, it was as if Hong Wan's peerless figure had appeared. However, the figure was getting closer and closer. It was as if it could appear in front of him in the blink of an eye, and it was so real. Hong Ling fiercely rubbed her eyes and forcefully opened them once again. However, she suddenly discovered that a red figure was right in front of her. That absolutely stunning figure caused the corners of Hong Ling's mouth to rise into a bitter smile. It looks like I really miss Luan too much. I can actually see an illusion. I wonder when Luan will come and pick me up. Grandpa Jun also saw the enchanting figure in red. He rubbed his eyes filled with astonishment. You are fantasizing because you miss Hong Wan too much, but what about me? Too guilty? In addition to her fantasies, Hong Ling also heard a woman's soft murmur. Father, I'm back. Father, I'm back. Hong Ling opened his mouth, and a tear rolled down from the corner of his eye. His lips curled into a bitter smile. If this is a dream, then I am willing to never wake up from this dream. In this way, his daughter would always be by his side, never to be separated. Boom! At this moment, the experts of Spirit God Continent had already launched their attacks. Rapidly arriving in front of Hong Ling, Hong Ling's gaze was fixed on the dreamlike figure in front of her. From beginning to end, she was unable to come back to her senses. Jun Lintian's sharp eyes caught sight of Hong Ling in danger, and he turned pale with fright. East Continent Lord, watch out. Unfortunately, it was too late. Hong Ling looked at the incoming attacks and laughed. His laughter was filled with tears, and it was incomparably miserable. Wan it's great that I can see you before I die. Chapter 21-27. Hong Ling believed that he was able to see Hong Wan's illusion because his death was near and his daughter had come to take him away. However, just as the enemy's attack was about to reach him, the woman who had been standing in front of him suddenly moved. With a casual kick, she sent the attacking expert flying. With a loud crash, he fell into the crowd. Hong Ling was stunned. Jun Lintian was dumbfounded. Everyone else stopped what they were doing and stared at the beautiful woman in blood-red robes in astonishment. Luan? Hong Ling stared at the woman in front of him. Luan was already dead and her corpse was in Yun Luofeng's hands. How could she possibly be here? This must be an illusion. It must be. Hong Ling's body trembled uncontrollably as he thought this. He reached out to touch Hong Wan's face. Hong Wan grabbed Hong Ling's hand and placed his coarse fingers on her face. The warmth caused Hong Ling's fingers to stiffen. There's a touch and warmth. This isn't an illusion. It's the real Wan. At that moment, Hong Wan could no longer control his emotions. He opened his arms and pulled Hong Wan tightly into his embrace as he sobbed. You're back. You're finally back. No one knew how he had managed to continue living after his daughter's death. If it had not been for the fact that he could not let go of the East Continent, he would have followed her. Father, I'm back. Hong Wan allowed Hong Ling to hug her tightly as her lips curled into a smile, and she spoke gently. Jun Lintian blinked in disbelief as he stared at Hong Luan's beautiful face in astonishment. Miss Hong Luan, what was going on? I'll explain once I've dealt with everyone here. Hong Luan raised his brows and turned to look at the group of cultivators behind him. If my guess is correct, you're all from the spirit god continent. You've killed me, and now you're trying to enter the 7 continents. Hong Luan, you'll never be able to leave this place alive. Apart from the east and west districts, the south and north districts were also in danger. There were too many experts from the spirit god continent, and they kept coming. Even the divine sovereigns had sent a few more, which made it difficult for everyone to deal with them. However, when the southern city was in danger, Nangong Yuni suddenly appeared. He was like a deity that descended from the heavens and defended the southern city that was about to fall. Huang Yingying and the others were originally guarding the southern part of the city. Now that she saw Nangong Yuni appear out of thin air, a trace of surprise appeared in her eyes. Moreover, in the short span of a year, Nangong Yuni's strength had actually changed so much. Young Master Nangong Yu, Huang Yingying wanted to say something, but she could not find the words. In reality, Huang Yingying was very grateful to Nangong Yuni. If it weren't for Nangong Yuni's guidance, she wouldn't have been able to avenge her parents, let alone become Yun Luofeng's subordinate. What's the situation with the other city gates? Nangong Yuni's voice was indifferent, his expression indifferent. That playful young man had unknowingly become a person who could take charge of things on his own. I'm not too sure. Nangong Yuni pondered for a moment before he said, "Continue to guard the city gates. I'll go take a look at the other places." As soon as he finished speaking, Nangong Yuni's faintly discernible figure disappeared. Chapter 21-28. Inside the city gate, on the quiet street, Yun Ruoshui looked behind her carefully. Seeing that no one had noticed her, she walked toward the city gate cautiously. By the way, which gate are Daddy and Mommy guarding? Yun Ruoshui lightly touched her forehead. With her poor memory, she had even forgotten where her parents had gone to guard the city gates. Forget it, I'll just look for a random gate. If it's not for Daddy and Mommy, I'll leave then. The corners of Yun Ruoshui's lips curved into a bright smile. But when she thought about how long this battle had been going on, her heart was filled with worry. Daddy, Mommy, I hope you don't blame me. I've already waited for you for a few months. Although Grandpa said that you wouldn't be in danger, I'm still worried. Yun Ruoshui bit her lip, her eyes filled with tears. But don't worry, I'll just sneak a peek. Once I see that you're safe, I'll leave. I won't be a burden to you. At this thought, Yun Ruoshui walked toward the street in front of her. She was heading in the direction of the north gate. The person guarding the north gate was the head of the Jun family, Jun Xian. He was struggling to deal with the enemies when he suddenly saw Yun Ruoshui sneaking out from the city gate. He was so shocked that his heart almost skipped a beat. Yun Ruoshui's eyes flashed with disappointment when she saw that it wasn't Yun Xingya and her husband guarding the north gate. She pursed her lips and said, "Uncle Jun Xian, do you know where my parents are? I haven't seen them for a few months. I'm very worried about them." In the beginning, Yun Ruoshui had listened to Yun Xingya and her husband and waited obediently at the Jun residence. But she was still a child, and her parents had been fighting for months. How could she not be worried? So she sneaked out when no one was paying attention. Of course, she would definitely be punished when she returned. But so what? As long as she could be sure that her parents were safe, she was willing to be beaten up. "Shui-er, hurry up and leave," Jun Xian shouted hurriedly. "This is not a place for you to stay, especially where your parents are. You can't go. Uncle Jun Xian, tell me where Daddy and Mommy are. I'll just look at them from afar." Yun Ruoshui's eyes were filled with a pitiful light as she bit her lip and looked at Jun Xian. Just as Jun Xian was about to speak, he saw an elder not far away casually throw out a beam of light, which directly attacked Yun Ruoshui. Yun Ruoshui was still young, and she had thought that she would be safe if she hid behind the city gates. Little did she know that the battle between these experts did not care about distance. Therefore, Yun Ruoshui blinked as she stared at the sword light that had suddenly attacked her. For a moment, she was unable to react, and she even forgot to dodge. It was only when she was pulled into a warm embrace that she came back to her senses in a daze. The youth hugged Yun Ruoshui's body tightly and dodged to the side, avoiding the attack. His back was already drenched in sweat, and fear filled his heart. He didn't dare to imagine that if he had returned a step later, would he have been unable to see this little girl again? "Brother Wu Yin, you're back?" Yun Ruoshui giggled as she looked at the youth behind her. She seemed to be naturally slow-witted, and even the grave danger that had just occurred had been thrown to the back of her mind. Chapter 21-29. Shui Chung Wuyin roared angrily. "Do you know that you almost died just now?" Yun Ruoshui blinked her big, innocent eyes. "I knew that Brother Wu Yin would definitely appear and save me. Shui believes in you." "You!" Chung Wuyin was so angry that he did not know what to say. He looked at the innocent and ignorant little girl in front of him and could not even reprimand her. "Yun Ruoshui, did I owe you in my previous life? You won't be satisfied until you scare me to death, right?" Chung Wuyin was gnashing his teeth in anger. He really owed this lass a lot in this lifetime. "Brother Wu Yin." Yun Ruoshui wrapped her arms around Chung Wuyin's neck, a bright smile blossoming on her innocent little face. "You're right. You owe me in your past life. That's why Shui wants to pester you." Although the young girl had not fully developed, her small body already had a faint fragrance. As the young girl approached, that faint fragrance also rushed into the tip of his nose. With a loud bang, Chung Wuyin felt as if his head was about to explode. A crimson blush flashed across his face, and he hurriedly coughed twice to demonstrate his awkwardness. "You go and stay here first. I brought some people with me to settle this matter." Chung Wuyin gently pursed his lips and said to the sky, "Long Yin, I'll have to trouble you to settle these people." Roar! A dragon's roar rang out, and not long after, Long Yan's huge body appeared in the void. That's right. The expert from the ancestral dragon clan who had come this time was Long Yan, who was ranked second in the ancestral dragon clan. He was also the dragon who had a dispute with Yun Luofeng. When Yun Luofeng left the spirit god continent, he told Chung Wuyin that he could seek help from the dragon clan if needed. When Chung Wuyin heard that the spirit god continent had joined forces to besiege the 7 continents, he immediately made a trip to the ancestral dragon clan. The ancestral dragon clan attached great importance to this matter, so the dragon clan leader sent Long Yan here. Under Long Yan's attack, the group of experts from the spirit god continent had long been defeated. After a while, they fell on the street in front of the city gate. The numerous corpses piled up into a small hill, and the entire sky was dyed red with blood. "Brother Wu Yin, I'm going to look for my parents." Yun Ruoshui clung onto Chung Wuyin's body, her large eyes filled with worry. A few months ago, these people from the spirit god continent attacked the 7 continents. Father and mother also personally went to stop them. Now that a few months have passed, Shui is very worried about them. "Where are your parents?" Hearing this, Yun Ruoshui turned to look at Jun Xian. "Uncle Jun Xian, can you tell me where my parents are now?" Jun Xian glanced at Chung Wuyin before looking at the giant dragon hovering in the void. He nodded gently and said, "They're in the eastern part of the city." Apart from the North City, the other city gates also had their victors. Due to the return of Jun Fengling and Yi Jingshen in the eastern city, and as Yun Luofeng had expected, they had used the power of the dragon saliva fruit to break through to the divine monarch level. Therefore, the divine monarchs of the spirit god continent were quickly defeated. In the western part of the city was Hongwan. Under Hongwan's bloodlust, these people had no chance of escaping. Very soon, they all fell into a pool of blood. As for the southern city, the people who had besieged the southern city were not very strong. When Nangong Uni appeared, he killed the strongest few of them. It would not be a problem to leave the rest to the sacred maiden tribe. Chapter 21-30. At this moment, in the western part of the city, Nangong Uni had just arrived when he saw the woman chatting cheerfully with Hong Ling. His eyes widened, and he rubbed them in disbelief. "This? Hongwan?" He was not mistaken. Was it really Hongwan? For a moment, Nangong Uni stopped in his tracks. He wanted to step forward a few times, but he did not have the courage. He could only stare blankly at her from a distance. He seemed to be afraid that if he took another step forward, Hong Luan would disappear. Hong Luan seemed to sense Nan Gong Yunyi's gaze. She turned to look at the handsome man who had appeared next to her, and a smile appeared on her peerless face. Nan Gong Yunyi, long time no see. Don't you recognize me? The woman's voice was very familiar. It was the same as before, and it made Nan Gong Yunyi feel as if he had first met her. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart at this moment. Agitation, excitement, or perhaps an indescribable feeling attacked his entire heart. Hong Luan, you're still alive? She was still alive? Was he dreaming? Hong Ling returned to her senses and asked, Wanner, can you tell me what's going on? You're clearly dead, and your corpse is with Miss Yun. Why are you here now? It's a long story. Hong Luan smiled. Back then, I really did die. I even went to the underworld. The underworld? Hong Ling was stunned. The underworld really existed? Originally, those who enter the underworld after death are unable to leave the underworld for the rest of their lives. If they appear on the mainland, their souls will immediately scatter. Hong Luan glanced at Hong Ling and continued. Hong Ling returned to her senses. Then why are you? Why can you still appear here? Father, no matter what kind of rules it is, as long as you have great power, you can break them. Hong Luan's expression was very serious. I was lucky and obtained a great opportunity. That was how I obtained great power in a short period of time. That was how I was able to break the rules of the heavenly way and return to the mainland. In other words, the current Hong Luan was still only a spiritual body. It was only because of her control over power that she was able to appear in a physical form. There was only one way to completely resurrect, and that was to resurrect through a well-preserved corpse. Miss Hong Luan, Grandpa Jun became excited. You said that a person can go to the netherworld after death? Then, can my deceased wife also be found in the netherworld? Hong Luan was startled. She remained silent for a long while. She seemed to be unable to bear it, but she still answered truthfully. The underworld is much more savage than the 7 continents. Large-scale massacres are frequent. Old Madame June has passed away for so many years. I can't guarantee that she's still in the underworld. Hearing that, Grandpa June sighed and smiled bitterly. Actually, I also know that this is just an extravagant hope of mine. So what if she is still in the netherworld? I can't get in, and she can't get out. The separation of yin and yang was so cruel. The experts who came to attack the West City have been slaughtered. Let's go and help the people at the other city gates, Grandpa Jun said solemnly as he gradually regained his composure. Nan Gong Yunyi finally retracted his gaze from Hong Luan and looked at Grandpa Jun. I passed by the North City on my way here. The North City is no longer a problem. You don't need to go anymore. There's still the East City and the South City, Grandpa Jun said with a frown. Especially the East City. I'm afraid Yun Qingyao won't be able to defend it. Chapter 21:31. Just as old Master Jun finished speaking, he saw Yun Qingyao and Ning Exan walking over hand in hand. His heart was finally at ease. The appearance of Yun Qingyao here was also an indirect proof that the East City was already safe. However, Jun Lintian soon saw Jun Fengling and his wife behind Yun Qingyao. His eyes widened and his tone became excited. Ling, are you back? In fact, old Master Jun had sensed that someone was breaking through. However, he did not think that it was Jun Fengling. He thought that someone from Spirit God Continent had broken through. Now that he saw Jun Fengling and his wife, he suddenly realized something. Before Yun Qingyao left, she said that Ling and his wife were extremely talented. If they consumed the dragon's saliva fruit, they would definitely break through to Divine Emperor, Old Master Jun. Old Master Jun returned just now. He was worried about you, so he asked us to come and take a look. Now that the enemies have been slaughtered, Spirit Continent is finally safe. Hearing this voice, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. Yun Qingyao's gaze was originally on Jun Lintian, so she did not notice Hong Luan's presence. Now, when she turned her gaze, she saw Hong Luan and was completely stunned. Miss Hong Luan? Was he sure he wasn't seeing things? Why would Miss Hong Luan appear here? It's a long story. Let's go back and talk about it slowly. Jun Lintian sighed. Yun Qingya and Xiao have been gone for so long. I wonder when they will return. However, fortunately, after Yun Luofeng and the others did not return, they protected this pure land. Father, I heard about what happened here from Feng, Er's uncle. Let's go back and talk about it. That bastard dared to invade the 7 continents. We cannot sit still and wait for death. A cold glint flashed across Jun Fengling's eyes. Her gaze became colder and colder, faintly containing a strong storm. All right, let's go back and talk about how to take revenge on those people. Jun Lintian was not that easy to deal with. If they dared to invade, they must be prepared to receive revenge. Spirit God Continent. Yution paced back and forth anxiously, looking very unhappy. Right at this time, several old men descended from the sky and slowly walked towards Yution. Yution, why did you call us here in such a hurry? The one who asked this question was a green-robed old man. He had an impatient expression on his face. Perhaps he was unhappy with Yution for disturbing their seclusion. I have no other choice now, so I asked you to come. Yution smiled bitterly. Do you still remember Zhu Qian? Zhu Qian? This name was like thunder piercing their ears, causing all of them to tremble. Some of them even revealed looks of terror, their faces faintly pale. To them, the name Zhu Qian was a nightmare. Why are you mentioning Zhu Qian now? That guy is already dead. The other gray-robed old man gritted his teeth, as if he was trying to force himself to believe that Zhu Qian had died. Furthermore, back then, Zhu Qian had suffered such heavy injuries. It was impossible for him to have survived. Zhu Qian is indeed dead. However, some time ago, I saw his reincarnation. Yution gently closed his eyes. Originally, he didn't want to tell these old men about this. However, he had no other choice now. Chapter 2132. Zhu Qian's reincarnation? Are you sure you're not mistaken? The last elder was dressed in a golden yellow robe. He exuded a noble and awe-inspiring aura, and there was a lifelike dragon embroidered on his sleeves. His originally expressionless face began to change as Yution spoke. There's no way I'm mistaken. That's Zhu Qian's reincarnation. Yution lowered his eyes as the man's figure appeared in his mind. He gritted his teeth and said, although his personality has changed drastically, I can still recognize him even if he turns into ashes. However, you can rest assured that Zhu Qian's strength isn't as good as before. There's no need to be afraid. The few old men were stunned and stared at Yution suspiciously. If that's the case, why did you bring us here? Zhu Qian isn't in any danger, but Yution's lips curled into a bloodthirsty, murderous intent. I saw a little girl who has an extraordinary relationship with Zhu Qian. Her talent is even more terrifying than Zhu Qian's back then. If she's allowed to grow, the consequences will be unimaginable. The former Zhu Qian was already a nightmare in their hearts. Now, there was a little girl who was even more terrifying than Zhu Qian. Yution, are you trying to deceive us? Zhu Qian's talent is already strong enough. How can there be someone stronger than him? Besides, it's just a little girl. What can she do to us? The yellow-clothed old man, Feng Yongqing, had a disdainful look on his face. He was even more disapproving of Yution's words. Yution smiled coldly when he saw their expressions. That little girl is only in her 20s and has already reached the ultimate god realm. Do you think Zhu Qian could reach the ultimate god realm at her age? The few old men were shocked. An ultimate god in her 20s? She's not just a genius. She's a monster. Not only that, but she can also make the Dragon Clan side with her. Just now, I sent people to the 7 Continents continent, intending to eliminate her and the people from the 7 Continents continent. Not long ago, the Dragon Clan heard the news and immediately sent that bastard Long Yin to the 7 Continents continent to help. Yution's words made the few old men even more surprised. The patriarch of the ancestral Dragon Clan was an extremely arrogant person. How could he help a human girl? This was completely illogical. Moreover, the man next to this girl is also very young, but he has already reached Sir God. I feel that if I were to fight with him, I would only be able to win by a narrow margin. Yu Tian was already the ruler of this piece of land. He was basically invincible. Yet, he claimed that he did not have complete confidence in defeating a divine lord, and that he could only win by a narrow margin. Since when did the continent have so many geniuses? If these things don't shock you, I can tell you one more thing. Do you still remember that Zhu Qian's puppet technique shocked everyone in the world? Moreover, the reason we chased after him back then was also to obtain this puppet technique. Yu Tian threw down another heavy blow. Unfortunately, even Zhu Qian could only refine puppets without souls. It was normal for a puppet to have no soul. What Zhu Qian had been researching all these years was to give a puppet life. Unfortunately, he was unable to figure it out until his death. However, Yu Tian paused, then continued. A few months ago, I fought with that girl. She had a puppet by her side. This puppet already possessed life and was no different from a normal person. Boom! Yu Tian's last sentence was like a heavy blow. The few old men's faces turned pale with fright. Chapter 21:33. That girl actually has such an ability? No, she must die. Otherwise, the threat she poses to us will far exceed that of Zhu Qian. The gray-robed elder, Kong Fengling, frowned as a murderous aura appeared in his eyes. Yu Tian, where is that girl now? The 7 continents. Yu Tian gritted his teeth. I think that girl won't dare to leave the 7 continents. Otherwise, we can kill her immediately. The 7 continents? The green-robed elder, Wei Xiang, was stunned. Then he fell into deep thought. As the rulers of the Spirit God continent, it was impossible for them to leave the Spirit God continent. If they continued to wait, that last would grow even faster. Everyone, I've asked all of you to come here, because I've already thought of a way. Yu Tian smiled slightly as a sinister light flashed in his eyes. This girl is rather loyal. Back then, she killed her way into the Spirit God continent because the people of the Spirit God continent had captured her disciple's mother. If we attack the Ancestral Dragon Clan, that girl will definitely appear. The Ancestral Dragon Clan? The few old men were stunned for a moment, and then they all fell silent. I know that fighting the Ancestral Dragon Clan is risky. After all, they are very powerful. However, we were able to drive them out of the humans' territory back then. That has already proved that we humans are far more powerful than the Dragon Clan. Yu Tian continued with a smile. Furthermore, if the 4 of us join forces, that old man from the Ancestral Dragon Clan will not be our match. Wei Xiang frowned again. Back then, we only forced the Ancestral Dragon Clan to leave. We did not kill them all because the 5 of us are the core of the Spirit God continent. None of us can be missing. If even one of us is missing, the Spirit God continent will immediately collapse. If it collapses, then so be it. Yu Tian's lips curled. We've already reached this realm. We can't make any more breakthroughs. As for the true gods, they are also legendary existences. If the Spirit God continent collapses, this space will cease to exist. The people of the Spirit God continent will only merge with the 7 continents. They will not cause us any harm. When the others heard this, they did not say anything else. It was indeed as Yu Tian had said. They could not achieve anything. Since that was the case, why would they still guard the Spirit God continent? Of course, there was a reason why Yu Tian hadn't thought about leaving Spirit God continent. He only knew how to become the core of the formation, but he didn't know how to remove it. So, it was impossible for him to leave Spirit God continent even if he wanted to. All right, let's do that. Feng Yongqing immediately made a decision. We cannot let that girl continue to grow. Otherwise, she will definitely endanger our existence. Only when she dies can we be at ease. But if we use the Ancestral Dragon Clan as a threat, will that girl really appear? Yu Tian sneered. I'm just trying my luck. If she can appear, it would be for the best. If she does not appear, we will immediately kill that old man from Dragon Clan. At that time, the restrictions on our bodies will also be lifted, and it will be the same to go to the 7 continents. When Yu Tian finished speaking, no one said anything else. They had already tasted the difficulties that Zhu Qian had brought them. This time, they absolutely couldn't let the same thing happen again. Since that's the case, we'll set off for the Dragon Clan now. Kong Fengling was silent for a moment as he looked at the azure sky outside the door. We can't be blamed for this. Blame that lass for knowing Zhu Qian and growing so quickly. Chapter 2134. At the same time, in the Seven Continents, the moment Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao appeared, they were discovered by the sharp-eyed Jun family members. Immediately, the Jun family servants scrambled to the Jun family to inform them. In an instant, the entire Jun family was in an uproar. Under Jun Lintian's lead, a group of people walked out. From afar, they saw a handsome man and a beautiful woman under the sun. The man was dressed in black and had a cold expression. Only when he looked at the woman next to him would he occasionally reveal a gentle gaze. He held a swaddle in his arms. The baby in the swaddle giggled from time to time. His delicate face was filled with a cute smile, and his big bright eyes were very clear. Yun Luofeng stood beside Yun Xiao. Her white clothes fluttered in the wind, and she was as beautiful as a celestial being in a painting. She was holding a little girl who was about 4 or 5 years old. This scene looked like a family of 4. It was so beautiful that no one could bear to destroy it. Feng, you're finally back. Old Master Yun laughed out loud and quickly walked towards his granddaughter. When he saw the little baby in Yun Zhao's arms, his eyes lit up. This is my great-grandson? Good boy, let great-grandfather hug you. Little Nianfeng was not afraid of strangers. When he saw the old master's hand, he giggled and even opened his arms for a hug. Bai Ling and Jun Fengling walked over together, leaving Yi Jingchen behind with a face full of resentment. He looked at Bai Ling, who had seduced his wife, and felt very wronged. Ever since Bai Ling and Jun Fengling got to know each other, the in-laws had a feeling of regret for not getting to know each other earlier. As the daughter-in-law of the general's residence, Bai Ling was naturally attracted by Jun Fengling's valiant aura. Thus, the two of them were like sisters now. Even Yi Jingchen had to step aside. Feng, this little girl is... Bai Ling looked at the little girl in Yun Luofeng's arms and asked curiously. Yun Chutian hid behind Yun Luofeng in fear. He looked at the strangers in front of him with a pair of timid eyes. He looked very timid. Tianer, don't be afraid. These are my family. Yun Luofeng could feel Yun Chutian's fear. She patted her little hand and comforted her. Mother, she's Yun Chutian. She's also my goddaughter. This little girl is cute and obedient. She's very likable. Jun Fengling chuckled. Perhaps she was afraid of scaring the little girl, so her voice became very gentle. Little Tian, I'm your grandmother. Be good and bring her to me. Yun Chutian blinked and turned to look at Yun Luofeng, as if asking for her opinion. When she saw Yun Luofeng nod at her, she carefully left from behind Yun Luofeng and walked towards Bai Ling and Jun Fengling. She called out obediently, Grandmother. Good girl. Jun Fengling's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. The word grandmother had really melted her bones. Little Tian, I'm your maternal grandmother. Bai Ling also waved at Yun Chutian. Come here and let Grandma see you. Yun Chutian blinked again and obediently walked toward Bai Ling. Her voice was soft, tender, and adorable. Grandmother, Bai Ling was very happy. Not only did Yun Luofeng bring back her own grandson, but she also adopted such a cute and obedient little girl. Little Yun, did you name the child? Jun Lintian had already arrived in front of Yun Luofeng. His smile was very bright, and his eyes were full of joy. Chapter 2135. Yun Yinfeng. At the mention of her son's name, Yun Luofeng's gaze softened. Her gaze fell on the infant in the swaddling clothes, and her eyes shone with motherly love. Yun Yinfeng. Jun Lintian laughed. It's indeed a good name. Yun Yinfeng. Wasn't that the meaning of Yun Zhao's yearning for Yun Luofeng? TSK. This young couple's relationship is so good that it makes others envious. Grandfather. Yun Luofeng's gaze turned towards old man Yun. While I was away, did something happen in the 7 continents? Old Master Yun was startled. He glanced at Yun Luofeng and then told her about the recent happenings in the seven continents. When she heard that the experts of the spirit god continent had come to the seven continents to carry out a massacre, her expression immediately turned cold. Killing intense surged from her body. However, when old Master Yin told her about Hong Wan's return, a look of surprise appeared on her face, followed by boundless joy and excitement. Hong Wan has really returned from the Netherworld? That's right, but Hong Wan has returned to East Continent Prefecture to attend to some matters, so she's not here. At this moment, Yun Luofeng's heart was filled with mixed feelings. That day, when she heard about Hong Wan's death, the rage in her heart was enough to burn the entire world. Who would have thought that Hong Wan would return? Hong Wan's corpse is still with me, and it has been preserved very well. With this corpse here, resurrecting Hong Wan will not be a problem. However, Yun Luofeng turned to Jun Lintian. Grandpa Jun, I'll have to trouble you to summon those from the Holy Maiden tribe and the Witch tribe back. The Spirit God continent has gone too far. Yun Luofeng will not let them off so easily. If Yinqinya hadn't broken through to Divine Lord, if Hong Wan and Jun Fengling had not returned, she did not dare to imagine what she would see when she arrived at Ling Continent. Fortunately, he had informed Speechless to seek help from the Dragon Clan, no matter what happened. Because of this, the Jun family didn't suffer any casualties, of course. There were no casualties among those who came to the Ling Continent. However, the rest of the continent suffered heavy casualties. All right, Jun Lintian nodded solemnly. Now that Yun Luofeng had returned, it was time for them to exact their revenge on the Spirit God continent. Within a few days, the news of Yun Luofeng's return spread throughout the seven continents. Those forces that were on good terms with Yun Luofeng rushed over, intending to contribute to the invasion of the Spirit God continent. Hong Wan and Yun Luofeng met again. Their expressions were somewhat sad. In the end, Yun Luofeng took 2 steps forward and gently hugged Hong Wan. Welcome back. Hong Wan's lips curled into an enchanting smile. I've spent my entire life chasing after your footsteps. Before I catch up to you, how could I possibly die? Hong Wan. Yun Luofeng released the woman in his arms and smiled. When I missed Feng, you weren't here. Now that the child has been born, why don't you become his godmother? I couldn't ask for more. Hong Wan hugged Yun Luofeng back, and the two looked at each other and smiled. Actually, Yun Luofeng's eyes flashed, and he suddenly said, Nangong Yuni isn't a bad person. Why don't you consider her? My Yinfeng can't only have a godmother without a godfather. Hong Wan's face flashed with embarrassment. Then, the man's handsome face appeared in her mind, and she gently pursed her lips. That depends on his performance. Chapter 2136. It was not that easy to become her husband. Yun Luofeng smiled and spoke to a nearby corner. Nangong, did you hear that? You have to perform well and become Yinfeng's godfather as soon as possible. Hong Wan's expression stiffened, and she followed Yun Luofeng's gaze. Only then did she see a handsome figure walk out from the corner. Instantly, a crimson blush flashed across her beautiful face. Luan, I will perform well. Nangong Yuni's eyes shone brightly. I will strive to be promoted as soon as possible. Hong Wan angrily kicked Nangong Yuni's butt. What do you mean by promoted? Do you even know how to speak? Nangong Yuni felt wronged. He rubbed his sore butt and said pitifully, I didn't say anything wrong. I want to be promoted as soon as possible and become Yinfeng's godfather. Hong Wan glared fiercely at Nangong Yuni. Dream on. After saying this, she turned around and walked forward. However, she could not help but caress her burning cheeks. Her footsteps were hurried, as if she was afraid of being discovered. It seems that your hard work has paid off. Yun Luofeng walked to Nangong Yuni's side and patted his shoulder. No matter what, I will support you. I also believe that you can bring happiness to Hong Wan, but suddenly, Yun Luofeng's tone turned serious and he said solemnly, I will say the ugly things first. Although you are my old friend from 2 lives, if you dare to harm Hong Wan, I will not let you off. She has always been the one to bully me. When have I ever bullied her? Nangong Yuni pursed his lips. Even when Hong Luan bullied him, he had always been willing to endure it. Yun Luofeng smiled. After this battle is over, the two of you can have a good chat. I believe that Hong Luan has feelings for you. Nangong Yuni nodded solemnly. He thought of the upcoming battle and asked, Do you have confidence in this battle? No, but I must fight. Yun Luofeng raised his head slightly. I will not let anyone bully me and get away scot-free. Nangong Yuni's mood was very heavy. He fell silent for a while before looking at Yun Luofeng again. If you want to fight, I will risk my life to accompany you. Luan will definitely do the same. In this life, he only had one lover and one friend. For these two people, he would go through fire and water without hesitation. Yun Luofeng didn't say anything else. She patted Nangong Yuni's shoulder and said, Go find Hong Luan. Bring Hong Luan here tonight. I want to help her completely revive. Nangong Yuni did not say anything else. He turned around and chased after Hong Luan. Not long after, he saw Hong Luan waiting for him not too far away. Luan looking at the peerless woman in front of him. Nangong Yuni didn't know what to say for a moment. Actually, when I first found out that you were Yun Luofeng's friend, I had already forgiven you. Hong Luan glanced at Nangong Yuni and continued, I believe in Yun Luofeng's judgment. Naturally, I would not suspect anyone by her side. Hong Luan had absolute trust in Nangong Yuni. Even though Nangong Yuni was only her friend, she understood that what had happened that day was just a misunderstanding. Nangong Yuni, you probably know that since I'm friends with Yun Luofeng, our personalities are definitely similar. So, I definitely can't tolerate my man having other women. Can you do that? Chapter 21:37. Luaner, don't worry. I won't do anything to let you down. Nangong Yuni thought that Hong Luan did not believe him and quickly swore. The corners of Hong Luan's lips curled up. Good. I've already received your guarantee. I'm relieved. As for whether I can accept you or not, I still need to understand more. Perhaps it was her experiences since young that made her protect herself. She had not accepted Nangong Yuni for so long because she was afraid of being hurt again. Before she was sure that he would not hurt her, she would not allow herself to accept him completely. Nangong Yuni's eyes were filled with joy. I'll let you understand me however you want to understand me. Luan, from the moment I saw you, I knew that you were the woman I wanted in this life. No matter how long it takes, I'm willing to follow behind you. As long as you don't give up, I won't leave you. Hong Luan raised her brows and glanced at Nangong Yuni once more before turning to walk out of the yard. Very soon, a figure appeared before Nangong Yuni's eyes. Nangong Yuni was so excited that he almost jumped up. He had never thought that Hong Luan would say something like this to him. Did this mean that she was slowly accepting him in her heart? Luaner, I won't let you down in this lifetime. I must perform well and strive to be promoted as soon as possible. Hong Luan's resurrection was simple. Yun Luofeng had prepared the medicinal herbs beforehand and placed her corpse in the medicinal herbs. When Hong Luan appeared at night, she could be resurrected immediately. Of course, when Hong Luan was resurrected, Yun Luofeng also asked her about her deceased father. In fact, Hong Luan knew Yun Luofeng's family very well. She had looked for Yun Yang's whereabouts after entering the underworld, but he did not exist in the entire underworld. When he heard the news, Yun Luofeng's hand paused and he sighed helplessly. Yun Yang was no longer in the underworld, which meant that he had completely disappeared. Bai Ling would not be able to handle this news, so Yun Luofeng had asked Hong Luan not to let Bai Ling know. Fortunately, Hong Luan knew this as well. Therefore, when Bai Ling had asked her that day, she had only brushed it off and did not pay attention. Hong Luan, it's about time. After a while, Yun Luofeng slowly stood up. Get up and move around a bit. See if you can adapt to your body. Hearing this, Hong Luan crawled out of the medicinal tub. She moved her shoulders a little and said, Not really used to it. I'm used to the feeling of my soul floating. I really can't get used to this body. You'll be fine if you move around a little more. Yun Luofeng looked at Hong Luan and said with a smile, As long as it doesn't affect your powers, it proves that this resurrection was a success. After speaking, Hong Wan gently closed her eyes. After sensing the powerful energy in her body, she opened her eyes and a sense of shock flashed across her eyes. My current strength is actually the same as when I used my soul body? That's right. Yun Luofeng raised the corner of his lips and said with a faint smile, I added a spirit herb into the bathtub. It will allow your soul and body to completely merge. Your previous strength will not disappear. Hong Wan was overjoyed. What she was most afraid of was that the power she had obtained after experiencing countless life and death situations in the netherworld would disappear after her resurrection. Now that she saw that her power was still there, she was completely relieved. Chapter 2138. Feng Er. At this moment, Yun Qingya's voice came from outside the door. Someone from the Ancestral Dragon Clan is here. He said he wants to see you. Ancestral Dragon Clan? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. All right, have it wait in the hall. I'll be there shortly. At this moment, in the hall, a young man dressed in green robes was anxiously pacing back and forth. His eyes were filled with anxiety. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, who were walking towards him under the moonlight. A light flashed through his eyes. This lady is most likely Lady Yun. Yun Luofeng's gaze fell on the azure-robed man. You came all the way from the spirit god continent. What business do you have with me? It's like this. The green-robed man's face was a little pale. Yu Tian and a few other old fellows have attacked our ancestral dragon clan and imprisoned our clan leader. He said that he wants Miss Yun to see him, otherwise he will kill our clan leader. The people of the ancestral dragon clan had always been honest, so they naturally wouldn't lie to Yun Luofeng. Instead, they spoke the truth. As for Yun Luofeng's choice, that was her own business. Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao looked at each other, neither of them saying anything. After a long while, she finally turned her gaze towards the green-robed man, her expression slowly darkening. I understand. Yu Tian couldn't come to the Seven Continents continent to deal with me, so he used the Ancestral Dragon Clan to force me out. However, even if he didn't use the Ancestral Dragon Clan as a threat, I still planned to go to the Spirit God continent to settle the score with him. She narrowed her eyes, and a cold glint flashed across her eyes. Go back to the Ancestral Dragon Clan first. I'll come over after making some preparations. Thank you, Miss Yun. The green-robed man's expression was filled with gratitude. He cupped his fists and walked towards the door. Long Luo had been by Yun Luofeng's side ever since she got to know him. Now, she, who was playing around with the little worm in the divine grimoire space, also heard the commotion outside and immediately appeared before Yun Luofeng. Her face was filled with anxiety. Before she could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Yun Luofeng. You don't have to worry. Since the Ancestral Dragon Clan has sent people to help the Jun family, I will definitely not sit idly by. We'll prepare tonight and set off tomorrow. Yun Luofeng comforted Long Luo. Then, he ordered everyone to gather at the Jun residence the next morning. After she gave her instructions, she went down to rest with Yun Xiao. Night fell. The moonlight was like water. The door to the room was pushed open by a small hand. Yun Luofeng, who was about to take off her clothes and sleep with Yun Xiao, immediately turned her head to look. Under the cold moonlight, she saw a little lowly who looked like she was carved out of jade walking towards her. Tianer, what is it? Yun Luofeng got up from the bed and walked towards Yun Shutian. She bent down with a gentle expression and rubbed Yun Shutian's head. Mother. Yun Shutian hooked his arm around Yun Luofeng's neck, an innocent and bright smile on his little face. Tian has something to give Mother. You'll definitely like it. After saying this, Yun Shutian tiptoed and planted a kiss on Yun Luofeng's forehead. Boom! At this moment, Yun Luofeng felt as if her head was being pricked by a needle. A powerful force directly rushed into her mind and filled her body with strength. After Yun Luofeng felt this force, she hurriedly sat down cross-legged. At the same time, lightning appeared above her head. Chapter 2139. Boom, boom, boom. Intense thunder rumbled. Yun Luofeng had already released his azure wings while he was sitting down. He immediately leapt up and rushed above Yun Luofeng's head, blocking the rumbling thunder that came crashing down. This time, the heavenly lightning was fiercer than anyone else's breakthrough. This was also the first time everyone saw Yun Luofeng's breakthrough. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was the end of the world. The lightning tribulation lasted for an entire night before gradually fading away. The next day, when Yun Luofeng opened her eyes and felt the endless power in her body, she couldn't help but stand up and stretch her legs. She asked, "Tianer, how much of this power do you have left?" Yun Chutian blinked and shook his head. "No more. I've given it all to Mother." "Mother, can you bring Tian to battle with you?" "Tian can definitely help Mother." At this moment, Yun Xiao had already walked to Yun Luofeng's side. After hearing Yun Chutian's words, the two of them looked at each other. "Mother!" Yun Chutian was afraid that Yun Luofeng would reject him, so he hurriedly held her hand and said pitifully, "Although Tian doesn't remember anything, Tian won't be a burden to Mother." Yun Luofeng pondered for a moment. She originally wanted to reject Yun Chutian, but then she remembered that Yun Chutian was given to her by Zhu Qian, so he definitely wasn't simple. Thus, she gently nodded. "All right, then let's go together." Yun Chutian smiled. Her smile was even brighter than the sun. She rushed into Yun Luofeng's arms and hugged her waist tightly. "Mother, Tian likes you the most." Under the morning sun, Yun Chutian's little face was flushed. Her eyes were as bright as the stars in the night sky, shining with a dazzling radiance. Yun Luofeng lowered her head and looked at the petite and cute little girl in her arms. A smile also appeared on her face. If she could predict what would happen next, perhaps she would regret bringing this girl to the Spirit God Continent. Unfortunately, Yun Luofeng didn't know anything. Spirit God Continent, the Ancestral Dragon Clan. Below the dragon altar, the members of the Ancestral Dragon Clan were all tied to the pillars. All of them glared at the attacking human cultivators with furious eyes. Yu Tian and the other three stood at the very front of the humans and looked down at the group of furious dragons. Their lips curled into a mocking smile. "You better pray for that woman, Yun Luofeng, to hurry over. Otherwise, your Ancestral Dragon Clan will be completely annihilated." Yu Tian smiled faintly. His white robes fluttered in the wind, and his sage-like appearance was hateful no matter how one looked at it. Long Yan's roar was filled with anger. "Yu Tian, Feng Yongqing, Kong Fengling, Wei Xiang, if you dare to kill our Ancestral Dragon Clan, I, Long Yan, will not let you off even if I become a ghost." "Become a ghost? Ha!" Feng Yongqing laughed. "That's if you have the chance to become a ghost. Just now, we had already prepared our soul fires. Once these flames appear, your souls will scatter, never to be reincarnated." Feng Yongqing gritted his teeth as he said the last few words. His gaze became sharper as he stared coldly at the group of ancestral dragons tied to the pillars. Fear flashed across Long Yan's eyes, but he didn't show it on his face. His hands were clenched tightly by his sides, and his entire body was trembling. He was clearly infuriated. "I will give Yun Luofeng one more day. If she doesn't come by today, I will kill a citizen of the Dragon Clan." Chapter 2140. Long Yan's anger surged. Unfortunately, the difference in power was too great, causing the Dragon Clan to be forced into such a passive situation. Yu Tian, back then, the Dragon Clan had already left the human mainland and was forced into this corner. "Why are you still unwilling to let us go?" Long Yan's heart was very heavy, and he could not suppress his pain. These damn humans, they were really going too far. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for helping Yun Luofeng. Therefore, you reap what you sow today. The corners of Yu Tian's lips curled into a slight angle. His brows were calm, and his words were completely emotionless. It was as if he was talking about something unimportant. Long Yan simply closed his eyes and did not want to waste any more time talking to them. Apart from him, the rest of the Dragon Clan citizens all looked terrified and their eyes were filled with panic. Time was racing against time. Soon, the deadline given by Yution had arrived. Seeing that Yun Luofeng had yet to appear, Yution's gaze swept across the area and landed on a young dragon who had yet to reach adulthood. "Bring that child to me." The young dragon was a little boy. In human terms, he should only be around 3 or 4 years old. He was still at an ignorant age. When he saw the group of humans walking towards him, the little boy burst into tears. "Mother, save me, save me." Even though he was still young, he knew why these people had come to capture him. Instantly, he flailed his limbs in panic, and tears covered his adorable little face. "No." A woman who was tied up next to the little boy cried out in panic. She wailed at the top of her lungs, "Don't touch my child. If you want to kill me, kill me. Don't kill my child. I beg you, my child is still young. Please let him go." However, in the face of the little boy's cries and the woman's pleas, the humans were indifferent. It was as if in their eyes, this little boy was no different from a chicken or duck waiting to be slaughtered. In the end, the little boy was brought in front of Yution. His large eyes were filled with terror, and his little body trembled uncontrollably. "Kid, you're going to die." Feng Yongqing took 2 steps forward and grabbed the little boy's collar, dragging him in front of him. "However, you must remember that the person who caused your death was not me. It was Yun Luofeng." Hua. By the time he had finished speaking, Feng Yongqing had already unsheathed his long sword. The light from the sword flickered with a piercingly cold light, contrasting with the little boy's panicked expression, making him look even more cold and merciless. "Enough!" Long Yin suddenly opened his eyes, and a cold light burst out from his eyes. "I am second only to the clan leader of the Dragon Clan. If you want to kill, it's better to kill me. Don't touch the children of our Dragon Clan." "Kill you?" Feng Yongqing coldly laughed and said disdainfully, "Don't worry, you'll die sooner or later. However, you won't be afraid in the face of death. I don't like killing without fear. On the contrary, I like this little guy's expression very much." He carefully observed the fear on the little boy's face, and the smile on his lips grew wider. At this moment, because of the intense fear in his heart, the little boy was unable to cry. He opened his eyes wide and looked at the demon-like Feng Yongqing. Long Yan's body trembled. In the end, he closed his eyes helplessly, not daring to watch this cruel scene. However, the hatred in his heart was even more intense, as if there was a raging flame burning his heart. Chapter 2141. I'll count to 3. If Yun Luofeng doesn't appear, I'll make this Dragon Clan child bleed on the spot. Feng Yongqing raised the long sword in his hand. His expression was cold and grim as his sharp gaze fell upon the pale little face in front of him. There was no sympathy in his heart. 1, 2, 3. He counted very slowly, but it was like a hammer smashing down fiercely. The child's mother cried even more heart-wrenchingly as she struggled to break free from the ropes binding her. The despair in her eyes would break anyone's heart. "There's no need to wait. Kill him." Yution swept his cold gaze across and spoke indifferently. "It's just a dragon. To humans, what's the difference between that and an animal?" Feng Yongqing did not waste any more words. The long sword in his hand slashed down from the sky towards the little boy's head. The little boy forgot to cry. His face was in a daze, as if the entire world had stopped at that moment. His mother fainted immediately. The other clansmen could not bear to watch and closed their eyes. However, it was undeniable that their bodies were trembling violently. This trembling wasn't caused by fear, but by rage. As long as they were given the chance, they would definitely make these humans who had come to the Dragon Clan die a horrible death. Clang! Suddenly, Feng Yongqing's sword seemed to have received a heavy blow, causing his sword to slow down for a moment. It was also at this moment that a figure in a black robe streaked across the sky, charging towards Feng Yongqing with a loud bang. Feng Yongqing gently narrowed his eyes in the face of this sudden attack. He did not retreat. Instead, He took 2 steps forward as the corners of his lips curled into a sinister angle. Boom! A powerful force spread from the two of them. A strong wind rose and lifted the man's black robes, making his expression appear even colder. At the same time, the little boy, who had been in danger, was pulled over by an arm and fell into a warm embrace. The joy of survival left the little boy dazed for a moment before he burst into tears. He cried as he left the woman in white's embrace and ran towards his mother, who was still tied to the pillar. The child's mother heard his sobs and slowly woke up. When she saw that the little boy was still in one piece, she could not help but burst into tears. "You guys are finally here." Yu Tian looked at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, who were standing in front of him. There was a faint hint of arrogance between his brows. "I had thought that you would be too afraid to come to the Dragon Clan. I never thought that you would really come." When Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao appeared, the other experts of the 7 continents also rushed over under the leadership of Hong Yuan and Yun Qingya. Those people ignored Yu Tian and the others and hurriedly rescued the ancestral dragons that were tied up. "Uncle Long Yin." Long Luo quickened her steps and asked with tears in her eyes, "Do you know where my father is?" "Eldest miss, you shouldn't have come back." Long Yin sighed. "Although your father is not here now, his life is not in danger. You can rest assured." So what if Yun Luofeng was strong? How could they deal with Yu Tian and the others? Their return was tantamount to sending them to their deaths. "Long Yin, stop talking. I'll get someone to save you first." Tears welled up in Long Luo's eyes. The rope that bound the ancestral dragon was made of a special material. This rope could restrain the power of the ancestral dragon clan, making it impossible for them to break free. Chapter 2142. No need. Yun Luofeng wiped the blood from the corner of her lips and curled her lips. "All these years, I, Yun Luofeng, have encountered many enemies, but I've never failed. It's the same this time." She raised her eyes, and her gaze was determined. Her white robes fluttered in the wind, and she was as beautiful as a painting. "Mother," Yun Tian stood at the side and clenched his little fists tightly. His large, bright eyes were filled with worry as he stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng. Very soon, Yun Luofeng and Yu Tian were fighting in the sky again. The crowd could only see the clashing figures in the sky, but could not completely capture their movements. "Stop." Suddenly, an angry voice rang out from the side. This voice made the people in the sky stop. Yu Tian and the others in particular. Their eyes were clearly filled with impatience. With Long Luo's support, the elder slowly walked over. Perhaps he had yet to recover from his serious injuries. His elderly face was still rather pale, but his steps were firm. "The 4 of you have come to the ancestral dragon clan to cause trouble and even want to kill people in my territory?" Yu Tian laughed mockingly. "I haven't killed you yet because I wanted to use you to lure Yun Luofeng here. Since she's already here, there's no need for you to exist. Don't worry, after I've killed Yun Luofeng and the others, I'll bury the entire dragon clan with them." The clan leader's face was ashen with anger, and he flung his sleeves angrily. When he saw Little Worm standing in the crowd, he wanted to say something but hesitated and did not say anything in the end. "Miss Yun, this time, the Dragon Clan has dragged you down. I won't let this matter rest so easily. Even if I have to fight to the death with these people, I won't retreat." He turned his gaze towards the people in the sky, and his elderly face was filled with determination. "No." Yun Luofeng shook her head. "These people used the Dragon Clan as a hostage to force me to appear. More accurately speaking, I'm the one who's dragged you down." Indeed, if it had not been for her, perhaps Yu Tian would not have acted against the Dragon Clan. This was also why she had rushed over. "Tisk." Wei Xiong laughed disdainfully. "It's useless even if you say so much. Everyone here today must die." Boom! The aura from his body spread out, making the weaker people feel as if they were unable to lift their heads. Humph! The clan leader flung his sleeves and flew into the void in a flash. He placed his hands behind his back and said with a cold expression, "Young Master Yin Xiao, I'm surprised by your strength. I wonder if I can join forces with you to deal with these three people? Yun Zhao's strength was even greater than what he had seen on Spirit God Continent. Even though he was still at the Divine Lord realm, there were similarly strong and weak within the Divine Lord realm. However, even so, what Yin Xiao was facing wasn't just one ruler, but three. If the two of them worked together, perhaps there was still hope for victory. Even if you join forces, what can you do? Wei Xiong sneered disdainfully. The smile on his lips was filled with disdain, clearly not taking the Dragon Clan leaders seriously at all. For a moment, the three of them took a step forward and surrounded the two from three directions. Yun Xingya and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that the Dragon Clan leader had joined them. They focused on dealing with the enemies in front of them. The other members of the ancestral Dragon Clan also joined the battle. Hence, the originally one-sided Spirit God Continent cultivators were clearly being suppressed. Chapter 2143. In the void, smoke rose again. Yun Luofeng retracted his gaze from Yun Zhao's body. Facing Yu Tian's sudden attack, he dodged to the side and circled around to his back. But before the longsword had even appeared, Yu Tian had already reacted and raised his weapon to block. After a clear clang, Yun Luofeng felt her palm go numb. She forcibly suppressed the numbness, and her face remained expressionless. Below, Yun Tian clenched her fists tighter, and the worry in her eyes grew stronger. She bit her lips tightly, and her face was flushed as if it was carved from jade. She looked adorable. Mother! Her gaze followed Yun Luofeng and did not move away for even a moment. Tears almost flowed out of her eyes, and her expression grew anxious. Little brother said that he wanted Tian to protect Mother. But what should Tian do to help mothers? Of course, Yun Luofeng, who was fighting with Yu Tian, did not feel Yun Tian's emotions. Ever since the clan leader joined the battle, she had placed all her attention on the battle with Yu Tian. The Dragon Scale Armor's time limit is almost up. I can't drag this on any longer. Yun Luofeng's eyes gradually grew heavy. She gripped her long sword tightly in her hand and gently closed her eyes. After a long while, she suddenly opened her eyes and looked at Yun Xiao, who was next to her. At this moment, Yun Xiao also turned her head to look at her. The moment their eyes met, Yun Xiao understood what she meant and nodded at her. Yun Luofeng withdrew her gaze when she saw this, and then a wisp of a smile arose on the corners of her mouth. Her figure flashed and immediately charged towards Yu Tian. It was even to the extent that she didn't take any precautions at all, and she merely converged all her strength onto the sword in her hand. You're overestimating yourself. Yu Tian laughed mockingly and indifferently faced Yun Luofeng's attack. Boom! The two swords collided in the air, and sparks shot out in all directions. Just as Yu Tian was about to laugh out loud, he did not notice that a cold figure had leapt up from behind him and fiercely slapped his head with a palm. Boom! In an instant, Yu Tian's body trembled. Blood flowed from his 7 apertures, and his eyes widened in astonishment. His gaze was filled with shock and disbelief. Feng Yongqing and the rest were also stunned. Just now, they had only cared about killing the Dragon Clan leader and hadn't noticed Yun Xiao heading towards Yu Tian. By the time they noticed Yun Xiao's movements, it was already too late. Before they could even cry out in alarm, they saw Yu Tian fall from the sky, head first to the ground. A deep pit was formed in the ground. I've dealt with one first. Yun Luofeng wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth, the smile on his face growing. Now, there are only 3 left. Boom! Rumble! Suddenly, the ground beneath Yun Luofeng's feet began to move. When she looked down, she discovered that the ground was rapidly splitting apart. What's going on? She frowned and asked coldly. The Patriarch was the first to react. The Spirit God Continent exists with the 5 of us acting as the heart of the spell formation. If even one of us is lost, the Spirit God Continent will cease to exist. So, from today onwards, the Spirit God Continent will no longer exist. As the Patriarch finished speaking, the cracking of the ground increased in speed. Even the sky had cracked open. Feng Yongqing and the rest were not in the mood to fight. Their expressions were grave as they stared at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao with murderous intent. Chapter 2144. Mother! Yun Chutian's frightened voice came from below. Yun Luofeng couldn't care less. She quickly rushed down and pulled Yun Chutian into her arms. She could feel the trembling body of the little girl in her arms and hurriedly comforted. It's okay. Mother is here. You don't have to be afraid. It seemed that Yun Luofeng's warm embrace made Yun Chutian feel at ease. She curled up in the woman's arms and buried her head in her chest. Yun Xiao also walked down from the void and hugged Yun Luofeng. His cold eyes were filled with gentleness, but this kind of gentleness would only appear where Yun Luofeng was. Fenger, we're going home. After he said that, Yun Luofeng clearly heard the sound of space cracking, as if the end of the world had arrived. After a long time, they fell from the sky. The disappearance of the spirit god continent did not mean that the people inside were obliterated. It was just that everything in the spirit god continent, including the houses and land, had all disappeared. After a long time, Yun Luofeng was finally able to adapt to the sunlight in front of her. She slowly opened her eyes and released the little girl in her arms. It's okay. Yun Chutian's body trembled. Her body was still firmly stuck to Yun Luofeng as she carefully looked around. Mother, what is this place? Yun Luofeng looked down at Yun Chutian and said gently, This is the Seven Continents continent. At this moment, the others also reacted. The people brought by the ancestral dragon clan and the few leaders were fine, but the original residents of the spirit god continent did not know what had happened, and their eyes were filled with fear. Therefore, the entire city was filled with the sounds of those people wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. Wuyan! Suddenly, a startled voice came from the front, instantly attracting Cheng Wuyan's attention. Cheng Wuyan, who was originally standing beside Yun Qingya and the others, turned his head and saw a familiar figure. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. What a coincidence! Was this considered enemies on a narrow road? Cheng Wuyan never thought that he would actually see Qing Gaoya here. It seemed like she was not far from the ancestral dragon clan at that time. Otherwise, she would not have fallen into the same place. So coincidentally, a hint of coldness flashed across Qing Gaoya's eyes. She said arrogantly, Cheng Wuyan, you little bastard. Why are you here? When Yun Luofeng saw Qing Gaoya, he recognized her, but she looked at Cheng Wuyan suspiciously and raised her eyebrows. Didn't I ask you to go back and settle the Cheng family's matter? Why is this woman still alive and kicking here? Cheng Wuyan scratched his head. When I returned to the Qing family, they were already empty. I don't know where they moved to. I've been looking for them for months, but before I could find them, I happened to find out that someone was besieging the Seven Continents. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows and looked at Qing Gaoya. She then looked at Feng Yongqing and the others, who had ugly expressions on their faces. She did not speak. She did not intend to intervene in Cheng Wuyan's matter, moreover. The most important thing for her now was to deal with these three old men. Perhaps Yu Tian's death had agitated these old men, but they did not make a move for a long time. They only glared at Yun Luofeng and the others with angry eyes. Chapter 2145. Long Luo. Qing Gaoya was about to continue insulting Cheng Wuyan when she suddenly noticed Long Luo standing next to the clan leader. Her eyes widened immediately. She did not know that the people of the ancestral dragon clan were here, so she snorted fearlessly, You damned girl! How dare you show yourself? You ran away from my Qing family that day. Now that you've fallen into my hands, let's see who can protect you. What happened in the Qing family that year was Long Luo's lifelong nightmare. Now that she saw Qing Gaoya, fear rose in her heart, and she hurriedly hid behind the clan leader. The clan leader frowned. From the conversation between Qing Gaoya and Cheng Wuyan, he could vaguely guess this woman's identity. At that moment, anger surged in his eyes, and a murderous intent shot out. A cold glint flashed in Qing Gaoya's eyes. She turned to look at the old man who was shielding Long Luo, and her lips curled into a sarcastic smile. So, the person who took Long Luo away that day was you. I didn't expect you to be so interested in such things at your age. You're actually interested in a little girl. However, I still advise you to return Long Luo to me. Otherwise, you'll definitely offend the Chung family. The clan leader's brows furrowed even more, and he clenched his fists tightly by his sides. He sensed the fear in Long Luo's heart and raised his hand to comfort her little head. He then looked at Chung Gaoya with a murderous gaze. Seeing that the old man ignored her words, Chung Gaoya frowned slightly. Can't you hear what I said to you? This little girl is my slave. You have no right to take her away. Oh? The clan leader finally spoke. His old voice was dignified, and his gaze was cold. I don't know, when did my daughter become your slave? Daughter? Chung Gaoya was stunned. This old man was Long Luo's father? In other words, she was also the ancestral dragon? However, Chung Gaoya quickly regained her senses. So, what if you're Long Luo's father? No matter what, I'll take her away. Humph. The clan leader snorted coldly. An abiding cold aura exuded from his body. I'm afraid you don't have the right to make the eldest lady of the dragon clan your slave. The eldest daughter of the dragon clan? Chung Gaoya, who had been nonchalant at first, suddenly heard the clan leader's words. Her body trembled and her eyes widened. You said she's the eldest daughter of the dragon clan? Impossible. I asked Long Luo at that time. She said she was just an ordinary ancestral dragon. Back then, Chung Gaoya knew that the eldest daughter of the dragon clan had gone missing. She had also met Long Luo at that time, so she had taken the initiative to ask about Long Luo's identity. At that time, Long Luo denied her identity as the young mistress. Long Luo stepped out from behind the chief leader and bit her lip. At that time, I thought my father was going to marry me off to a bastard. That's why I didn't dare to reveal my identity. I was afraid that you would send me back to the dragon clan. After getting Long Luo's acknowledgement, Chung Gaoya's body trembled. The arrogant arrogance from before instantly disappeared, and her entire face turned pale. You lied to me. You actually lied to me. If she had known Long Luo's true identity, she would never have done such a thing. Long Luo looked a little sorrowful. How can you say that I lied to you? I was too stupid. I thought that you would be grateful to me for saving you. Who would have thought that you would actually lock me up and force me to spit out my blood essence? If I had not met Lady Yun, perhaps, I would have been tortured to death by you. Chapter 2146. This was a classic case of being unrewarded for one's good intentions. After all, Long Luo had saved Chung Gaoya, yet she had committed such an ungrateful act. Chung Gaoya shut her eyes. After a long pause, she opened them again and stared straight at Long Luo. To us humans, spiritual beasts like you serve us, isn't that so? Why should the dragon clan hide their blood essence and not allow us humans to use it? You won't have a good ending for your selfish actions. These members of the ancestral dragon clan would not let her off anyway, so she might as well speak her mind. Her eyes were filled with hatred. It was as if Long Luo, who had saved her life and had been imprisoned by her, owed her a debt of gratitude. Humph. The clan leader's features were ashen. The dragon clan is also a living being. Since when have we fallen to the point of serving you humans? Who do you think you are to order the dragon clan around? Long Yin, kill this woman first. We'll deal with Feng Yongqing and the others later. Chung Gaoya's body stiffened, and she gritted her teeth. Even if you kill me, you'll all die a horrible death. Her tone became shrill, and her eyes were filled with a blood-red light. Long Yan's body flashed, and he appeared in front of Chung Gaoya. His fist landed heavily on Chung Gaoya's body with a loud bang. His fist pierced through her chest and killed her on the spot. Chung Huiyan had not said a word. Even though he had planned to kill Chung Gaoya with his own hands, who would have thought that Chung Gaoya would have such bad luck and run into the ancestral dragon clan? Hence, he did not make a move and only stared calmly at Chung Gaoya, who was lying in a pool of blood. You reap what you sow. Chung Huiyan turned away and did not spare Chung Gaoya another glance. At the same time, the members of the ancestral dragon clan turned their attention towards Feng Yongqing and the others. He, Feng Yongqing laughed icily. Actually, that little girl was right about one thing. Spiritual beasts exist to serve humans. However, the dragon clan's temper is too strong. If you had submitted to humans earlier, perhaps many things would not have happened. The clan leader clenched his fists tightly as a mocking smile appeared on his face. The dragon clan has never submitted to anyone, especially to you. In fact, many years ago, Feng Yongqing and the others had wanted to join forces to make the dragon clan submit to them. However, this old man's character was as stubborn as a donkey, so they had failed. Lady Yun, young Master Xiao, let's join forces and kill them. The dragon clan leader relaxed his tightly clenched fists. His eyes were cold and stern. He subconsciously walked to Yun Luofeng and Yun Zhao's side and faced off against the three of them. Just as the battle was about to break out, with a boom, the ground trembled. The force of the trembling was very strong, as if something was trying to break through the ground and escape. Mother! Yun Tian hurriedly held Yun Luofeng's hand. Tian is scared. Boom! Boom, boom, boom. The sound of an earthquake instantly spread throughout the continent, causing everyone to panic. Yun Luofeng's brows furrowed. Yun Zhao's expression did not change as he held the girl's shoulder and protected her in his arms. Be careful. I feel like something is about to appear. His voice was very low, and there was a hint of heaviness in it. Chapter 2147. Boom! At this moment, the entire ground split open, and a huge winged fire dragon rushed out of the ground. Huge flames soared into the sky and covered the entire horizon with a layer of raging flames. Roar! The dual-winged fire dragon let out a loud roar, and the entire sky was torn apart in an instant. Its eyes were very ferocious, and it looked at the crowd below with a fierce gaze. Winged fire dragon? The clan leader's expression changed greatly, and his eyes were filled with fear. Why would such an ancient creature appear here? At this moment, the winged fire dragon had yet to move. It hovered in the void, and its voice was very sorrowful, as if it was calling for its companions. Yun Luofeng was silent for a moment. When I first came to the Seven Continents, I heard that there were ancient beasts suppressed under the Seven Continents. If I'm not wrong, these ancient beasts are from the winged fire dragon clan. The winged fire dragon had existed since ancient times. How powerful was it? It could be said that the power of a winged fire dragon was comparable to the nine-winged sky dragon that Yun Luofeng had encountered before. Moreover, there were 7 winged fire dragons suppressed under the 7 continents. Even Yun Luofeng's expression darkened, let alone the others. But what I don't understand is why the winged fire dragon suddenly revived and broke free from its shackles. It must be because the spirit god continent collapsed, causing a large amount of spiritual power to flow into the 7 continents. This must have caused the winged fire dragon to revive. When the clan leader said this, his lips trembled slightly and his eyes revealed his fear. Although the ancestral dragon clan had lived for a very long time, they were still not as powerful as the ancient beasts. Against ancient beasts, he had no other choice. The winged fire dragon can cross an entire continent in an instant. If this winged fire dragon appears, it means that the other winged fire dragons have also revived. Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao, I have no confidence in this battle, but I have no choice but to fight. Yun Xiao gently held Yun Luofeng's hand, her expression determined. I'll accompany you. To accompany her in life and to accompany her in death. Roar! The winged fire dragon's roar grew louder. Soon, they could feel a scorching heat coming from all directions. The heat was like the sun and seemed to have a power that could roast them into ashes. Be careful. Yun Xiao suddenly pulled Yun Luofeng and Yun Tian to the side. A beam of fire shot down from the sky and landed on the ground where they were just standing. A bottomless pit appeared on the ground. Yun Xiao hugged Yun Luofeng tightly. At this moment, Yun Luofeng could feel his back drenched in sweat. His clothes clung tightly to his back. Ah! A heart-wrenching scream was heard. When everyone turned around, they saw Feng Yongqing covering his eyes. My eyes, my eyes! Feng Yongqing, Wei Xiang, and Wei Yongqing were shocked and quickly walked in front of Feng Yongqing. However, in the face of an ancient ferocious beast like the dual-winged fire dragon, there was nothing they could do. Wow! Some of the more cowardly people immediately burst into tears. They curled up in fear and stared at the twin-winged fire dragon in the void with fearful eyes. At this moment, the sky was burning with raging flames. It was so red that it looked as if it had been dyed by fresh blood. Roar! At this moment, the winged fire dragons in the sky finally moved. Flames rose from their mouths, and with a boom, they charged towards the ground. Chapter 2148. Everyone raised their heads to look at the flame, and the despair on their faces was reflected in the light. Whoosh! The white light rose up and was swallowed by the flame. At that moment, it was as if time had stopped and the entire ground was calm. The winged fire dragon looked at the empty ground, then at Feng Yongqing and the other two who were lying on the ground. Its eyes were filled with confusion. It seemed to be wondering where the group of humans had gone to within the illusory array. The sky was blue, the water was clear, and the environment was quiet. The clan leader and the rest were dumbfounded. They did not understand what had happened. They had thought that they were going to die for sure, but they were suddenly transported to another space. This was too unreal. The clan leader recovered from his shock and looked at Yun Luofeng in astonishment. Miss Yun, what is this place? It was clearly, this is an array, similar to your spirit god continent. Yun Luofeng's eyes darkened slightly. You will be very safe here. I want to go out and fight those winged fire dragons. Miss Yun, the winged fire dragons are much stronger than you think. If you go out, you will definitely not be their match. The clan leader shook his head helplessly and sighed softly. Yun Luofeng's lips curled up. I have no other choice. I still have my family on this continent. I should thank that winged fire dragon just now for attracting the rest of my kind here. Otherwise, I would have to worry about my family. However, even though the winged fire dragon is still here, he will leave sooner or later if I don't appear. When that happens, my family will be in danger. So I can only go out and fight. This was all she could do. If something really happened to her and she was gone, the illusory array would naturally disappear, and the people inside would still not be in any danger. Mother, Tian wants to go with you. Yun Chu Tian grabbed Yun Luofeng's hand. She was afraid, but she forced herself to calm down and looked at Yun Luofeng with her big, watery eyes. No! This time, Yun Luofeng rejected her without hesitation. Mother, Tian will be obedient and won't cause trouble. Yun Chu Tian was afraid that if he let go, he would never be able to see his mother again. Just as Yun Luofeng was about to say something, Yun Zhao's voice rang out beside him. Bring her along. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng was startled. But since Yun Zhao said this, then he definitely had his reasons. Moreover, she believed in Yun Zhao. Therefore, she no longer refused and nodded slightly. If there is any danger later, I will throw you in directly. This was her bottom line. An innocent smile appeared on Yun Chutian's face. Her face was so cute that it looked like it was carved from jade, and her big eyes were bright and moving. After saying this, Yun Luofeng's thoughts moved, and he, Yun Zhao, and Yun Chutian once again appeared where they were before. At this point, the ground was scorched and gave off a burnt smell. All the trees were destroyed, and even the corpses of Feng Yongqing and the other two were almost burnt to ashes. With the hatred between her and Feng Yongqing, at that time, she naturally would not care about them. Therefore, under the attack of the dual-winged fire dragon, they had already lost their lives. Roar! The winged fire dragon, who was about to leave, stopped when it saw Yun Luofeng and the others. It let out a low roar from its throat, and its slightly raised eyes were filled with arrogance and bloodlust. Chapter 2149. Then a winged fire dragon swooped down towards Yun Luofeng and the others. As an ancient beast, The winged sky dragon naturally cared a lot about its reputation. It simply disdained to attack these human ants together. Thus, only one winged fire dragon charged towards the two of them, while the others waited quietly in the sky. Yun Luofeng heaved a sigh of relief when she saw this. If all the winged fire dragons attacked together, she and Yin Xiao would not be able to handle them. However, even so, a winged fire dragon was still very powerful. Its body carried a scorching heat that would cause the enemy's fighting power to decrease slightly. Yin Xiao, we can't go on like this. There are a total of 7 winged fire dragons here. With our strength, I'm afraid we won't be able to hold on for long. Yun Luofeng and Yin Xiao fought side by side, while Yin Chutian hid far away to watch the battle. Just as she was thinking of a countermeasure, she suddenly saw a figure appear in the sky not far away. It was a man who looked like a banished immortal. He was so beautiful that he looked like he had walked out of a painting. He stood not far away and quietly watched Yun Luofeng and Yin Chutian fight the winged fire dragons. Zhu Qian. Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes. Why was he here? Looks like you've already found the thing I left for you. Feng Jin's lips curled into a faint smile. His gaze swept across the terrified Yun Chutian, then turned to Yun Luofeng. However, why didn't you use it? If you use it, these winged fire dragons won't be a problem for you. Yun Luofeng was struggling to deal with the winged fire dragons. Now that she heard Zhu Qian's words, she frowned. You've recovered your memory? Also, what is the thing you left for me? Mo Qingqing's death has indeed helped me recover my memory. Feng Jin smiled faintly. It's just that I don't want to become Zhu Qian. I'm just Feng Jin. As for what I left for you, aren't you asking the obvious? Feng Jin's gaze turned to Yun Chutian again. He looked at the girl's pale little face and said, She's what I left for you. Although Yun Luofeng had already guessed this, her heart skipped a beat when she heard Feng Jin's words. She did not think that Feng Jin mentioning Yin Chutian was a good thing. Be careful. Yin Xiao saw that Yun Luofeng was in a daze and hurriedly stood in front of her to block the attack for her. Her brows furrowed slightly as she said, Leave this to me. If you have any questions, you can ask him. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng raised his head and looked at the man in the air. What is your intention in giving her to me? Feng Jin was silent for a moment. This little girl is not human. It was a coincidence that I picked her up and locked her up. My goal was to keep her for my future successor. Yun Luofeng, now that you are my successor, I can tell you that this little girl was born from the purest spiritual energy of the world. Her heart is the most precious essence of the world. If you consume her heart, you can immediately increase your strength to become a true god. A true god was the dream of many. Back then, Yun Luofeng had also wanted to break through to real god. But if the price to pay to break through to the true god realm was to consume Yin Chutian's heart, then she would rather not break through. Zhu Qian, since you said that her heart could make a breakthrough to real god, why didn't you use it? Chapter 2150. Zhu Qian found Yin Chutian, but left Yin Chutian to him. What was his intention? Feng Jin smiled. That smile was filled with sorrow and helplessness. Perhaps it's because I don't want to become a true god. Becoming a true god gives me endless life, but I'm alone. I might as well reincarnate. At this moment, Yun Chutian was so frightened that she burrowed into Yun Luofeng's arms. Her eyes were filled with fear as she buried her head tightly in her mother's arms. Yun Luofeng sensed the fear in Yun Chutian's heart. She caressed her back gently and looked up at Feng Jin in the void. Other than this method, is there no other way to defeat these winged fire dragons? Feng Jin glanced at Yun Luofeng but did not speak. Seeing this, Yun Luofeng did not ask anymore. She hugged the trembling Yun Chutian tightly and said firmly, Tianer, don't worry. I won't enjoy your heart. Yun Chutian raised her jade-like face, which was covered in tears. Really? Really? Mother will never lie to you. Yun Luofeng looked down with a gentle expression. Hearing this, Yun Chutian could no longer control her emotions and burst into tears. Mother, Tian doesn't want to die. Tian wants to be with mother and little brother. I really don't want to die. No matter how special Yin Shu Tian was, she was still a child. No child could remain indifferent in the face of death. Roars! The winged fire dragons in the void were getting impatient. Their tempers had also become irritable. Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Xiao, who was fighting with the winged fire dragons, and her expression darkened. Have you decided? Feng Jin lowered his head to look at Yun Luofeng, his voice calm. Yes. Yun Luofeng held Yun Chutian's little hand and took a step forward. I won't sacrifice someone's life to save myself. Feng Jin hesitated for a moment. She's not human, but she has emotions. She can cry, she can be afraid, and she can feel pain. Yun Luofeng raised her head gently. So, in my heart, she's no different from a real human. I would rather fight to the death than sacrifice her. Yun Chutian's body stiffened. She turned her head to look at Yun Luofeng, who was beside her. Her teary eyes were covered by a thin layer of mist, and her pale little face looked very pitiful. She remembered, she seemed to have been born at the beginning of chaos. When those greedy humans discovered her usefulness, they tried to obtain her heart to achieve their own goals. All these years, she had been on the run. After that, she was picked up by a human. The human did not harvest her heart, but locked her up. This trial lasted for 1,000 years. For 1,000 years, she stayed in an empty cell, so much so that her earliest memories had faded. She who could speak before had forgotten human language because there was no one to talk to. Until her appearance, Yun Chutian's tears increased and covered her entire face. She slowly closed her eyes. Over the years, she had met far too many people, and those people's greedy faces were as clear as day. However, only this woman in front of her would decisively reject such temptation. Then, for the only warmth in this world, was she willing to sacrifice herself? Suddenly, Yin Shu Tian opened her eyes and loosened her grip on Yun Luofeng's hand. She thought she was willing. Chapter 21:51. Tiana, wait for me here. Yun Luofeng let go of Yun Chutian's hand and said gently, we'll be able to go home soon. Yun Chutian nodded with a cute smile on her delicate face. Little brother is still waiting for us at home, right? Yes. Yun Luofeng stroked Yun Chutian's little head and kissed her little face. Be good and wait here for me to come back. After saying this, Yun Luofeng had already turned around and quickly walked to Yun Zhao's side. He quickly held his long sword in his hand and stared coldly at the winged fire dragon in the sky. Yun Xiao, we need to get rid of her as soon as possible. The other winged fire dragons are getting impatient. If this continues, they might attack us at the same time. Yun Luofeng summoned his dragon scale armor and spoke with a serious expression. However, just as she finished speaking, the winged fire dragon in the sky was already impatient. It let out an angry roar and charged towards Yun Luofeng and the others below. The entire horizon was illuminated red by the flames. Feng, be careful. Yun Xiao reacted quickly and pulled Yun Luofeng into her arms. Her strong and tough body faced the winged fire dragons that were charging towards them. Boom! The flames crashed down, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of Yun Zhao's mouth. He still firmly protected Yun Luofeng in his arms and used his back to block all the danger. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng felt as if he was being pricked by needles as he watched Yun Zhao's increasingly pale face. Tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. Yun Xiao, enough. It was really enough. Yun Xiao lowered her gaze. Her black eyes were filled with endless gentleness. It was as if the flames that were crashing towards him did not cause him any pain. That's right. To him, it was enough as long as Yun Luofeng was alive. In this life, he was only willing to live for her. Feng Er. The man's voice was low and hoarse. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Don't cry. If you cry, my heart will feel even worse. Yun Xiao, move aside. Yun Luofeng wanted to struggle out of Yun Zhao's embrace, but the man held her tighter and tighter, not giving her a chance to escape. From the first time I saw you, I was attracted to you. Later on, I found out that it was because our physiques complemented each other. I admit that I stayed by your side in the beginning because you gave me a very comfortable feeling. You could even alleviate the pain of my breakthrough. Yun Zhao's lips curled into a smile. His smile was still so gentle, and his embrace seemed to transform into a myriad of mountains and rivers to embrace her. But then, Yun Zhao's voice choked for a moment before she continued, I was captured by you. Yun Zhao used the word captive. Indeed, from the moment he met her and fell in love with her, he was destined to become her captive, unable to escape this cage for the rest of his life. But he was willing to endure it. No matter if it's your aggressiveness, arrogance, it's all what I love. In this lifetime, I, Yun Zhao, have no regrets in loving you. Bang! The power of the 7 dual-winged fire dragons converged in the sky and crashed down with a loud crash. Under this powerful attack, Yun Zhao only gave a muffled grunt, his arms still tightly protecting the woman in his embrace. If you're fine, then I can rest easy. Yun Zhao. Chapter 2152. Tears flowed down Yun Luofeng's face. She raised her head to look at the man's increasingly pale face and closed her eyes in pain. Boom! Yun Zhao's body suddenly fell down. His body firmly pressed down on the woman beneath him. Even though he had fallen, he still used his body to block all the incoming damage for her. Not far away, Yin Chutian stared blankly at Yun Zhao, who had fallen to the ground. Her little face was also unknowingly covered in tears, but her spirited eyes were unusually calm. Yun Zhao. The attacks in the sky were still ongoing. Yun Luofeng was protected by Yun Zhao's body, so she was not hurt at all. However, she felt that the man's breathing was getting heavier and heavier. If this continued, she was afraid she would lose him forever. Yun Zhao, move aside. For some reason, Yun Zhao was stronger than anyone else at this time. Yun Luofeng could not push away the man who was pressing down on her no matter how hard she tried. This filled her heart with despair. Mother, at this time, a childish voice rang in Yun Luofeng's ears. When she raised her head, she saw Yun Chutian's jade-like face. At this moment, Yun Chutian had a smile on her face. Her smile was a little mysterious, but it made Yun Luofeng's heart tremble. Tian, leave quickly. It's dangerous here. If it was only one double-winged fire dragon, perhaps she and Yun Zhao could fight it together. However, there were 7 of them now. The power of the 7 fire dragons gathered in the sky as if it could destroy the world. Even if Yun Chutian was only affected by this power, his soul would immediately scatter. This time, Yun Chutian did not listen to Yun Luofeng. She pursed her pink and tender lips. Mother, will you remember Tian forever? Tian Yun Luofeng was stunned and frowned. What do you want? Mother, Tian has already remembered the past. Yun Chutian tilted her little head and smiled with tears in her eyes. Thank you, Mother, for giving Tian such a beautiful memory. This is the happiest period of time since Tian can remember. Tian will always remember Mother. Also, when little brother can remember, Mother must tell little brother that Tian likes him very much. If there's a next life, Tian still wants to be Mother's daughter. Yin Chutian closed her eyes slightly. Her entire life flashed before her eyes in slow motion. Ever since she met Yun Luofeng, all of her memories were filled with pain. He had spent his days being bullied and hunted, but only Yun Luofeng could bring her happiness. Tian Seeing that Tian had already taken out a dagger, Yun Luofeng's face turned pale, and he shouted sternly, "Put that dagger down immediately." Yin Chutian opened her eyes. She glanced at Yun Luofeng, then at the winged fire dragons in the sky. She ruthlessly stabbed the dagger into her heart. Tenor. Yun Luofeng's voice was heart-wrenching and lung-splitting. Her body began to tremble, but Yun Zhao had already lost consciousness. She, on the other hand, was firmly protected by Yun Zhao's body, unable to move. Therefore, he could only watch helplessly as Yun Chutian pulled out his heart. Yun Chutian's heart was very special. It wasn't bloody like a human's. Instead, it emitted a bright luster like a gem. But looking at Yun Chutian's heart, Yun Luofeng seemed to feel that her own heart had also been dug out. Her face was already covered in tears, and her expression was one of pain. Mother. Yun Chutian's face was pale as she staggered towards Yun Luofeng. She half knelt beside her, her long eyelashes gently drooping. Tian is very afraid of death, but Tian is even more afraid of father and mother leaving. Chapter 21:53. Thus, she had willingly sacrificed herself. Tian Yun Luofeng gently closed her eyes. At this moment, she felt something ice-cold placed on her lips. At the same time, a faint wave of spiritual energy flowed into her body, bringing with it a faint smell of blood. Boom! In an instant, a blood-red light rose from Yun Luofeng's body. That light illuminated the entire sky in a blood-red color, as if the sun was shining high up in the sky. Then, an illusory throne gradually appeared in the void. This throne was also red, a gorgeous and noble red that was incomparably grand. This time, there was no lightning. However, because of this strange phenomenon, it attracted the impulse of the entire mainland. That bright red throne emitted a dense coercion, causing everyone who faced it to feel a sense of respect. The red light lasted for a long time, so long that it reached the end of the world. Then, it gradually dissipated. Yun Luofeng slowly crawled up from the ground. She took out a stalk of spiritual medicine and fed it to Yun Xiao. Then, she raised her eyes to look at the winged fire dragons in the void. Go to sleep in peace. Once I'm done with these winged fire dragons, we'll go home. In the void, when the winged fire dragons saw Yun Luofeng's breakthrough, they were scared out of their wits and wanted to turn and run. However, they had only taken a few steps when they were blocked by a snow-white figure. Feng Jin stood quietly not too far away and looked at the peerless woman in snow-white robes. His face lit up with a gentle smile. There's only one way to use this little girl's power to break through. That is, she must willingly hand over her heart. Otherwise, even if you kill her 1,000 times, you won't be able to find where her heart is. This was also the reason why Yun Chutian was able to survive the pursuit of so many people. As long as her heart was still there, she would not die. More importantly, unless she was willing, even if you cut her into 8 pieces, you wouldn't be able to find where her heart was hidden. Trying to escape? Yun Luofeng stood in front of the group of dual-winged fire dragons, his face cold, his eyes filled with rage. You all injured Yun Xiao, and even caused Tian Er's death. And now you want to escape? Even if I tear you into 1,000 pieces, it will not be enough to quell the anger in my heart. If not for them, Yun Xiao wouldn't have been injured and Tian wouldn't have died. Therefore, all of this was caused by this group of dual-winged fire dragons. Roar! The winged fire dragon roared and immediately scattered in all directions. This way, Yun Luofeng could only deal with one winged fire dragon. He could not kill them all. However, in the face of their escape, Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a cold smile, and he stood there calmly. Then, she gently closed her eyes. In an instant, her silhouette immediately split apart, and countless white silhouettes filled the void. Her white robes fluttered in the wind, and it was as beautiful as a painting. Those clones surrounded all the winged fire dragons, turning the void into a cage, making it hard for them to escape. Roar! The winged fire dragon was forced into a corner and spat out a mouthful of angry flames. Who knew that the flames would directly penetrate Yun Luofeng's body? Very quickly, Yun Luofeng's body returned to its original state. All of the doppelgangers closed their eyes and held hands in the void. At that moment, flames ignited on the bodies of the doppelgangers and shot towards the winged fire dragon that was surrounded by flames. Little Mo quickly stepped forward and supported Yun Luofeng's body. No matter if it's a human or Yun Chutian, they can't live without a heart. It's not easy for her to be able to talk so much with Master without a heart. So, Yun Luofeng stared blankly at the reaction of Yun Chutian's disappearance. His heart was almost numb from the pain. If she didn't take Tian away, would everything not have happened? Chapter 2155. At this time, Feng Jin had already walked down from the sky. Dressed in white, he looked like an immortal, otherworldly. Why didn't you stop her just now? Yun Luofeng's voice was choked with sobs. She didn't even lift her head as she continued to stare at the place where Yun Chutian disappeared. Feng Jin pondered for a moment. That was her own choice. To her, living is more painful. She was willing to die for the person she loves. But she's just a child. Why should she sacrifice herself for our battle? I've said it before, she's not an ordinary person. Based on her age, she's older than the entire 7 continents. But in my heart, she'll always be a child. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a bitter smile. She would always remember the first time she saw Yun Chutian in the secret chamber. The little girl, who was completely naked, stared at her with an innocent and confused look in her eyes. She looked so innocent and innocent. She is indeed dead, but she can still be alive. Feng Jin glanced at Yun Luofeng. In 5 years, she will appear in Heaven Emperor City. When that time comes, you can go there to find her. However, let me remind you that those who have reincarnated will not have any memories. She will also not remember you. So, whether she is willing to go with you or not depends on you. Yun Luofeng's ashen face finally showed a trace of change. She gently raised her eyes. 5 years later? Emperor City? Okay, I'll go there to find her. If she doesn't leave with me, I'll protect her for life. Feng Jin smiled. His clothes fluttered in the wind as he turned and disappeared from Yun Luofeng's side. He should also go find the lover of his 2 lives. Even though he missed her in both lives, he would never give up in his next life, no matter if she was a man or a woman. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng slowly crawled up from the ground, walked to Yun Zhao's side, and planted a kiss between his eyebrows. Thank you for staying by my side in this life, accompanying me, protecting me, indulging me. In the future, I will protect you. Master. Xiaomo wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Yun Luofeng. She didn't look at the group of winged sky dragons in the flame prison anymore. She said calmly, let's go back to the Jun family. It's time to end this battle. The birth of a true god shook the world. Ever since the news of Yun Luofeng becoming a true god spread across the 7 continents, the Jun family's doorstep was almost broken. Especially since Yun Luofeng had a son, those families with little girls tried their best to enter the Jun family. But in the end, they were stopped by the Jun family. As for the dual-winged fire dragon that had been wailing for a few days and nights, no one paid any attention to it. In any case, it still couldn't escape death. 5 years later, at the back of the Jun family's mountain, the originally calm sky was finally dyed red by a blood-red light. Since the appearance of the Red Throne 5 years ago, another grand and luxurious throne had appeared in the void, causing the entire 7 continents to be shaken. Mother, a cute little boy hurriedly ran over and crashed into Yun Luofeng's arms. He raised his cute little face and smiled brightly. Daddy, did you break through? Yun Luofeng nodded. She looked at where the throne had appeared, her gaze gentle. Yes, your father has also become a true god. On this land, it was very difficult for real gods to reach. It should be said that basically no one could reach such a height. Chapter 2156. However, Yun Luofeng had broken through because of Yun Chutian. Furthermore, Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng's physiques were similar. Therefore, when he dual cultivated with Yun Luofeng, he could also reach this height. Thinking of Yun Chutian, Yun Luofeng's heart ached again. She could still recall the scene of this girl's disappearance all those years ago. It made her heart ache even more. However, 5 years had passed. It was time for her to find Tian Er's whereabouts. Just as she was thinking, Yun Luofeng saw a person dressed in black slowly walking over. Her lips curled up slightly. Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao strode over and pulled Yun Luofeng into his arms. He fiercely kissed her on the lips. His voice was gentle. Did you wait too long? Yun Xiao, Nianfeng is still here. Yun Luofeng pushed Yun Xiao away and glared at him. Yun Nianfeng's eyes lit up. There was no need to mention how envious he was. His small body pounced on Yun Luofeng, and he pouted. Mother, I want to kiss too. At that moment, Yun Zhao's entire face darkened. He lifted Yun Nianfeng up from Yun Luofeng's body. He narrowed his cold eyes and threatened coldly. Looks like you're bored and want to find something to do. Under his father's threatening voice, Yun Nianfeng's body trembled pitifully. Feng, I've already confirmed that this boy is the reincarnation of that bastard Songji. Yun Xiao turned to Yun Luofeng. He's already so lecherous at such a young age. He even wanted to molest my wife. 2 years ago, he even wanted to sneak into a servant girl's bath. Fortunately, I caught him in time and gave him a beating. I also ordered people to watch him so that he could change his lecherous habit. Usually, Yun Luofeng was more protective of Yun Nianfeng. However, when it came to this aspect, no matter how Yun Xiao punished Yun Nianfeng, she would always stand at the side and encourage Yun Xiao. So, having been persecuted by Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, he hadn't had time to develop his lecherous nature before it was deeply restrained. Who asked Yun Xiao to be so savage? He didn't dare. Yun Xiao, 5 years is up. Yun Luofeng was silent for a while before saying. Yun Xiao was stunned. Back then, in order to protect Yun Luofeng, he had suffered too much damage, which was why he had fainted. As for what happened after that, Yun Luofeng told him after he woke up, it's been 5 years. It's time for us to find her. Yun Nianfeng was confused. Father, mother, who are you looking for? The two of them looked at each other. Yun Luofeng smiled. Go find your fiancé. Fiancé? Yun Nianfeng tilted his head and asked curiously, what's a fiancé? Can it be eaten? Although Yun Nianfeng had lustful thoughts before, it was because of curiosity. He was still a child and didn't know what a fiancé was. A fiancé is someone who is accompanied by a father and mother for a lifetime, Yun Luofeng explained. Yun Nianfeng blinked his eyes gently. Someone I can hug, sleep with, and even kiss? However, Nianfeng isn't as bad as father, pressing down on mother every night. I can even hear mother's cries of pain. Yun Luofeng's face darkened, and he glared at Yun Xiao again. If you dare to mess around in front of the child again, get out of the room and sleep. Hearing this, Yun Xiao was very innocent. At most, I'll hug and kiss you in front of Nianfeng. I won't mess around. Chapter 2157. Yun Luofeng regained his senses and narrowed his eyes at Yun Nianfeng. Tell me, how did you know that father was suppressing mother? I was hiding under the bed when I was playing hide and seek with Xiao Chui. I overheard it. Yun Nianfeng didn't know what he had done wrong and confessed honestly. Overheard? Yun Zhao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. She immediately picked Yun Nianfeng up. Let's go. Let father test how your cultivation has been recently. After saying this, Yun Xiao carried Yun Luofeng out of the courtyard. Not long after, Yun Nianfeng's ghostly wails and howls could be heard. Yun Luofeng didn't stop Yun Xiao. She looked at the azure sky and sighed deeply. 5 years, Tian, a mother will bring you home soon. In the 7 continents, other than the various states, there was also a royal family in each continent. However, the royal family of the 7 continents was only better than the aristocratic families and was suppressed by the major sects and the continent lord's mansion. Even so, the royal family still held a certain amount of power and was an existence that was respected by the common people Sky Emperor City. A weak figure was tied to a pillar. Below her was a group of people holding torches. Her eyes were full of fear, as well as despair. It's all this witch's fault. She's so vicious at such a young age. She couldn't bear to see the second princess being doted on by His Majesty and was jealous of the second princess being respected by everyone, so she wanted to kill her. The second princess is such a good person. She's simply a goddess who saves people from suffering. At that time, everyone in Sky Emperor City was infected with a very serious infectious disease. If it wasn't for the second princess, we wouldn't have been able to be saved. Everyone was enraged, and they all wanted to kill this weak little girl. The little girl was very young, only 3 or 4 years old. Her body was dirty, and her original appearance couldn't be seen. Her little face was pale, and her whole body was trembling. No, it wasn't like that. The illness a few months ago wasn't treated by her second royal sister. It was a method she researched. She was afraid that no one would believe her because she was too young, so she didn't take action. At that time, her second royal sister came to find her. She was the only one who knew that she was self-taught at such a young age, so she told her the method. Who knew that second imperial sister would take all the credit and even want to harm her? The little girl felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to say these words, but she knew that no one would believe her. These people could not wait for her to die. Why? The emperor has arrived. A sharp voice rang out, and after a while, a yellow-robed man walked over under the lead of a group of guards and maids. The man's expression was dignified, and his gaze was cold. Do you know what you did wrong? The little girl shook her head and bit her lips. She was not wrong. Your mother was such a gentle and virtuous person. How could she give birth to such a vicious daughter like you? You're only 4 years old, yet you're already so scheming. You even want to murder your second sister. The man slammed his palm on the table and said angrily, "All these years, the royal family has raised you, but you haven't made any contributions. Your second imperial sister is 3 years older than you, and all she knows is to serve the country and the people. She cured such a serious infectious disease, and even the #1 physician of Heavenly Imperial City intends to take her in as his disciple. Look at you. Other than eating and drinking, what else can you do? Just because your second imperial sister has such achievements, you're jealous of her and want to murder her. Don't you know that you're wrong?" The man's expression was cold, but his words were like pearls. The little girl bit her lips, and tears flowed down her face. "I said that I could understand medicine, but you told me to go play and not bother you." Chapter 2158. At that time, she did tell these people that she could understand medicine and write on her own, but they did not believe her. "You still dare to spout nonsense now." The man's expression became even more furious. "You were only a 2-year-old child at that time. You told me that you could write and understand medicine? Wasn't this all because your mother deliberately told you to exaggerate to attract my attention? It seems that you and your mother are not good people. Fortunately, your mother died a few months ago. Otherwise, I would not have let you and your mother off." The little girl lowered her head and her shoulders shook. She could walk on her own at 3 months and speak at 7 months. When she was 1 year old, her mother had taught her how to write. Every time her mother wanted to find this man to tell him about her behavior, she would be chased out by this man's nonsense. Then, he would put both mother and daughter under house arrest in the room, not allowing anyone to visit them. It was only when she was 2 years old that she was released. In order to see her father, whom she had never seen before, she had excitedly run over to tell him about her intelligence. However, he had pushed her away harshly and ordered the guards to chase her away. All these years, only second imperial sister had come to play with her. Therefore, second imperial sister was the only one who knew that she had medical skills. "Someone burn this good-for-nothing to death. My palace does not raise good-for-nothings." The man's cold voice made the little girl raise her head, and her eyes were covered with tears. As her eyes blurred with tears, a beautiful face seemed to appear in her mind. This face had appeared in her dreams at night for many years. Although she did not know who the other person was, she knew that they must be inextricably linked. "I don't want to die." She did not want to die, because it seemed that she had not seen the person she wanted to see. She still had a promise that she had not fulfilled. How could she die here? The little girl bit her lips, and her eyes were hazy with tears. She saw a huge dragon in the blue sky, and there seemed to be a few figures standing on the dragon's back. "Your Majesty, it's a dragon." In the crowd, someone let out a cry of surprise. The man who was originally sitting on the dragon throne suddenly stood up, his expression excited. It's really a dragon. Looks like the dragon couldn't stand it anymore, so he came to destroy this vicious girl. The man's lips curled into a smile. To humans, the Dragon Clan was a symbol of strength and power. It made everyone want to worship them. Quick, set fire to this demoness. Someone in the crowd made a sound, and everyone happily threw their torches at the little girl. The little girl was so scared that she closed her eyes at this moment. The giant dragon let out an angry roar. The torch that was originally flying towards the little girl was bounced back and fell into the crowd, burning with a whoosh. Ah! Panicked voices could be heard from the crowd. Those foolish humans were all being burned by the flames. Some people brought water, but for some reason, the flames could not be extinguished no matter how hard they tried. The little girl opened her eyes and looked at the sky. Hence, the peerlessly beautiful face that had appeared in her mind in her dreams was reflected in her eyes, causing her frozen eyes to slightly widen. Her gaze was unable to shift away from the white-clothed lady. The lady leaped up from the back of the giant dragon. Her white robes fluttered as she stood in front of the little girl with a smile on her lips. Chapter 2159. This chapter was a combination of 2 chapters, so the book coins might be more than the other chapters. I've seen you before. The little girl's voice was very young and crisp, but it was full of certainty. I've seen you in my dreams. The girl's smile was very beautiful. It was hard to describe her beauty with words that could topple cities and countries. Tian, I'm here to take you home. Home? The little girl's body stiffened. You call me Tian, I don't know why, but I feel that this name is very familiar, but it also seems very distant. Have I seen you before? Yes. Yun Luofeng's lips curled up. You were my goddaughter in your previous life, and also my son's fiancée. That day, you lost your life to save me, so I came to find you as promised. Yun Luofeng had selfish motives. She liked Yin Chutian a lot and wanted her to be her daughter-in-law. Thus, when she introduced Yin Chutian's previous life, she subconsciously brought this identity with her. Whoosh! Yun Luofeng casually waved her hand, and the rope that bound Yun Chutian loosened. She raised her hand to catch the little girl who was about to fall to the ground. Looking at the little girl's sallow and emaciated appearance, her heart ached. Sorry I'm late. At this moment, Yun Luofeng was blaming Feng Jin. Feng Jin said that he could only come to Sky Emperor City to see Yun Chutian 5 years later. She always thought that Yin Chutian would be born 5 years later. She didn't expect that Yin Chutian had already been reincarnated for 5 years and had suffered so much. I'll help you kill all the people who hurt you. Don't leave a single one alive. When she said this, a cold glint flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes, and her voice was filled with killing intent. The little girl grabbed Yun Luofeng's hand and shook her head slightly. No, don't kill them. Why? Yun Luofeng asked curiously. Your strength, isn't it very powerful? The little girl raised her head and looked at Yun Luofeng eagerly. Yun Luofeng hesitated for a while and nodded. The little girl revealed a bright smile. Then can you teach me how to cultivate? No one has taught me all these years. I want to have the strength to take revenge on my own. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng laughed. This was her daughter. Whoever hurt her, she would use her own strength to take revenge. All right, I'll teach you. However, I can spare their lives, but I won't let them go so easily. Yun Luofeng's eyes flashed, and he coldly ordered, Yuni, go to the East Continent Prefecture and tell the East Continent's Continent Lord what happened here. He knows what to do. The Heavenly Sovereign City belonged to the East Continent. As long as the East Continent's Continent Lord spoke out, the Heavenly Sovereign City would never be able to rise again. Yun Luofeng picked up the little girl, removed the straw from her head, and said, As for the other matters, when you grow up, you can personally take revenge. At this time, Yun Xiao and Yun Yinfeng also walked down. Yun Yinfeng saw Yun Chutian at first glance, and his little face frowned. Mother, Why is little sister so dirty? Did some bad guy bully her? Yun Luofeng glanced at Yun Yinfeng, then at Yun Chutian, and said, Yinfeng, you have to protect your sister in the future. Don't let anyone bully her again, understand? Yun Yinfeng solemnly patted his chest. Mother, don't worry, Yinfeng will protect my sister. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng finally revealed a smile. Come, let's go home. Inside the city, the emperor jumped to a high place, and only then did he avoid the raging flames. When he regained his senses, he saw the little girl who was already far away and roared angrily. Quick, stop them! He didn't see Yun Luofeng jump down from the giant dragon, so naturally, he didn't know her strength. However, no matter how angry he was, he could only watch as Yun Luofeng and the others went far away. Not far away. On the mountain range, a man stood with his hands behind his back facing the wind. His white robe fluttered in the wind, and his slightly raised eyes looked at the heavenly sovereign city not far away. 5 years have passed. Yun Luofeng should have found Yun Chutian by now. I hope she doesn't blame me for making him wait 5 years to find her. Feng Jin's gaze was distant. If it had been a year earlier, Yun Chutian's mother's fate wouldn't have been able to escape death, and Yun Chutian's ending would also be different. Only finding her now is the best ending. At this moment, a delicate little Lolita walked to Feng Jin's side. Her little hand tugged on Feng Jin's sleeve. Her round little face was pink, and she looked very cute. Master, Chung is hungry. Master will cook for Chung. Hearing this young voice, the man turned around and smiled gently. Okay, Master will go right away. Be good and play by yourself first. Master, Chung is clearly a girl. Why did you give Chung such a masculine name? The little girl pouted and said with dissatisfaction. Feng Jin lowered his head, and his big hand gently rubbed the little girl's head. Because Chung is Master's most beloved person. It's just that Master couldn't let go of all the grudges and accept him, and instead caused his death. In this life, Master will not make the same mistake again. Now that I've found you, I will be by your side for the rest of my life, accompanying you as you grow up. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Chapter 2160. The 7 Continents. The Jun family. It had been a few years since that battle. The 7 continents had been relatively peaceful. Nothing had happened, except that Yun Luofeng was pregnant again. Yes, she was pregnant again. The entire Jun family was in a jubilant mood after the news had spread. Everyone had a smile on their faces. Even Old Man Yun had gone to find Old Man Yi for a drink. It had been a long time since he had last seen him. The Jun family's courtyard. Yun Luofeng lay in Yun Zhao's arms. She smiled as she watched Yun Yinfeng and Yun Chutian chase each other. This kind of life was really good. Miss! Suddenly, a hurried voice came. Yun Luofeng looked up and saw Qing Yin quickly running in from outside. She panted and said, Miss, Dean Ji Jiotian is here to see you. Jiotian? Yun Luofeng was stunned. He had been missing ever since he parted ways with Ji Jiotian in the Fengyan continent. Even when the 7 continents were facing a crisis, he did not appear. Now he had finally shown up. Yun Xiao, let's go see Ji Jiotian. I want to ask him where he has been all these years. Yun Luofeng stood up from Yun Zhao's embrace. There was a smear of urgency on his face. Yun Xiao silently followed behind Yun Luofeng. She knew that Yun Luofeng had not forgotten about Ji Jiotian all these years. It was just that he did not want to come out, so she did not look for him. Now that Ji Jiotian had finally shown up, she was naturally anxious to see him. Just as she finished speaking, a man in a blood-red robe walked in from outside the courtyard. Just like when they first met, he was still as domineering as ever, a devastatingly beautiful woman. Jiotian, Yun Luofeng's lips moved. You are finally back. Yes, I am back. Ji Jiotian stood not too far away from Yun Luofeng. He looked at the woman's flower-like smile, and the corners of his lips curled into a slight smile. Do you want to know where I have been all these years? Yun Luofeng smiled. If you want to tell me, you will. If you are unwilling, I will not force you. Ji Jiotian sighed. This woman was still the same after so many years. She had not changed at all. Similarly, she still moved his heart. But there were already people guarding the beautiful woman, so it was enough for him to accompany her as a close friend. Xiao Feng, all these years, I've been looking for a way for you to return to your homeland. Of course, I'm afraid I won't be able to find this method by myself. It's all thanks to Zhu Qian's reminder and Chun Yuqing's help. Chun Yuqing. At this moment, the face of a banished immortal appeared in Yun Luofeng's mind. In truth, Chun Yuqing was the most mysterious man Yun Luofeng had ever met. Even now, she still couldn't figure him out. You're talking about a way to return to China? Yun Luofeng's eyes lit up. Her enemy was waiting for her in Huaxia. Yes. Ji Zhutian had a complicated look in his eyes. Zhu Qian was the one who told me about this. When he recovered his memories, he found me and told me that you don't belong to this continent. There's only one way for you to go back. Chun Yuqing and I spent many years together to find that way for you. Yun Luofeng felt a little touched. In this world, there were still so many friends who helped her without complaint or regret. Thank you. You never need to thank me. Ji Zhutian raised his eyebrows. If you really want to thank me, why don't you make your son my disciple? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.